ده حندة توعلو خمي وعلكم. alright كم تلمد كحبشة education متينا للنحوات يقرأتها فيديو بلنا هنا بناي سرح بوتا خوينا ريكوردينا لايف نانوت زلنا عملتي يا حوات لومي ناي فدرال سويكا FOMC meeting it's a big day يو تقند انتاي كوبنا يقولوا summary مجمرات summary زهوبنا انتاي كمسل يخل بتغكل عبزي عمزي كلته ولد مقراص اللودي يلونديو زيتاتنا خري زينا خملس كمون ناي اسرائيل اند ايران when update نشتك هلونايو سمع لخدو سمرت برهاني سمع لخدو صبو يقرأتها فيديو زي مهلاي مالتي سمع انت اللي نقرن مو كساب لك ربع دقيقة قال لنا تناي FOMC meeting دوتس دحر أناي دحر فرق ساعتون بعلو جيروم باول ون خزاربي كلنا نسمع نوحد بلا فيديو يا ثانك يو سمرت alright سلازي بتناي إسرائيل اشتاك نجمر نحوات so far انتاي مسل كم زلو دحر نابتي كنكيدنا يا according CNN كم زحبرو زلو تريو لهم قدمي 43 دقيقة زلو قال يأسي سالساي جزء ناي aircraft carrier group deployed قبرالنا بإسرائيل سريدا مالتيو so انتاي امتا aircraft group انتاي حيزو خيز زلو أبون اشتاك رئينا مأتو مالتيو لنا دحر بزح تبتاك كلو ناي حبريتاتنا إسرائيل and Iran
strike group to Europe next week. They're moving the USS Ford aircraft carrier back.
زي أتريوا زلهم سالسيتي aircraft عبزي كندي نهلوهم زين بملنجات نبلن اير نبلن تاينا نبلن زين كلنا صوار زي انت سكيما زي سالسيتي تخيل الله ناب اسرائيل so تينا ميدل ايست قرب ازيو تون تغيري انت بقرب ناي سلام زخونو ناب تأمارس اللي اخنا بالنيروم هجخا نسو حسوت مخاني امزقل زلو so زي يعني اشتين اسمع يامو كساب سبات زقبو
battle group to the eastern Mediterranean, closer to Israel. It will be the third U.S. aircraft carrier nearby the conflict between Israel and Iran. And that move follows a very intense night in the region. More than 50 Israeli aircraft carried out a wave of strikes on key Iranian missile and military sites. We have new images of the damage to these critical locations, and we'll share those images with you shortly. Retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Cedric Layton is joining us right now. He's at the wall for us to break it all down for us. Colonel Layton, I want to get to those satellite images in a moment, but first, why would you send a third aircraft carrier battle group to the region if the U.S. were not getting ready to actually use that aircraft carrier battle group, which includes a bunch of destroyers as well?
Yeah, that's a good طبقت حتى يا حيتو زل سلام تايهم سالسيتي سالسايتهم aircraft سد زلهم يأسك سابجا ترى تنزل لخت هارم كونفورم ما جبرتنا نامناي ترامب مزاكم يد حارن تايلو لهم معنتن قحوات سلام تايجن كساب كند زخونا صوارنا وزخيت زلو زبل حتى إذا حتى زلو جنا ربع سلزلنا بزنا إيران عند إسرائيل نقرب نشتكي نزنه so ملسين تايلهم لسول نسمعهم.
Exactly, Wolf. Well, that actually is a great question because normally it takes a lot of fuel to bring an aircraft carrier to any place that is far from its home port. And that's exactly what we see with the Ford. And probably what you'll see is the Gerald Ford will end up right around here in the Eastern Mediterranean. It was originally scheduled to deploy to Europe. But the basic idea for the Ford's deployment with its 75 or more aircraft and the fact that it also has...
Oh my goodness, 75 or more aircraft. بالطعمي الله أحوال. So نوح جزء يوصلوا سلزخون يوم كافي جسال ساي درجة بس حمد الله صدوا زلوا نابتي ميديترانسي بتخكل سكيب حتى اللهم ده انتايتي أبينايك هولي نزبل حتى حوات thank you أنتبه searches قبرنا بركوريكم أبدين okay let me do what is this yeah Dia Garcia look this حوات Dia Garcia had a Indian Ocean coin base na USA and UK military recovery so most probably the backers B-12 bombers أو هول زبل قمتات له almost نزيا 30,000 pound ويكا 10,360 كيلوغرام وزي أنا تا ناي فورد نيكلر بروجرام ناي ናይ ኢራን ከተዕን ትኽእል ማለት ከተዕን ትኽእል ክንብል ኮልና ግን እዚኣ ብሓንቲ ኮነትን እዚኣ ሞስሊ ሓንቲ ኣተሰኪማ ዘላ ክልተ ደንገለ ኣብኡ ከም ዘሎ እዩ ዝሕብር ዘሎ so Garcia, the Indian Ocean base, the USA can use target Iran. This is 30,000 pound ክብደቱ ዘሎ ናይ USA B-2 bomber up to ocean كله. እዚ ocean እዚ ካብዚ ናብ ኢራን ዳርጋ ናይ 6 ሰዓት ይኾን ፍላይት ይሕዋት ናይ 6 ሰዓት ይኾን ፍላይት so እዚ ኣብቲ ኤሪያ ኣብቲ ታርጌት ከም ዘሎ እዩ ዝሕብር ዘሎ maybe እዚአን ክልተአን በቲ ሓበሬታ ዘሎ እዘን ክልተ እዚኣተን ንኣብነት ረኣይዎ ናብዚ ኣብዝሎ ማለት እዩ ኦኬ ካብዚ ናብ ኢራን ኸይድ ናይ 6 ሰዓት እዩ እዚ ሚሊታሪ ቤዝ እዚ ዳጋርሲያ እዚ ንሪኦ ዘለና ሚሊታሪ ቤዝ ናይ USA and United Kingdom ማለት እዩ so ኣብዚ ብዙሕ ኣፅዋር ሚሊታሪ ከም ዘሎ እዩ ዝሕብር ዘሎ ስለዚ ተቐንዲ መሰረት ሕዋት ረኣይዋ እንድሕር እዚ B-2 ኣብኡሎ ኮይኑ well maybe this is ready to go ክህሉ ይኽእል እዩ ማለት ኣብድሉ ኩነታት ኣሎ ማለት ዲና ክንብል ዘለና እንታይ ቀሲልና ክንሪአና እዚ ግን ብትክክል ያ ካብ ማርኬት ምዕፃውሎም ማዓንቲ ክንሪኦ ንኽእል ኢና ሕዋት ድሕሪ ኦልሞስት ሰዓት 2 ማርኬት ክዕፀው ድሕሪ 2 ሰዓት maybe እቲ ኣክሽን ወይ ከዓ ክገብርዎ ደልዩ ዘለዉ ኦልሞስት 24 ሰዓት ኣለዎም ሎሚ ተዓፂ ፅባሕ ሙሉ መዓልቲ ማርኬት ኦፍ እዩ ሆሊዴይ እዩ so net market ቅልውላው ንኻይፈጥር maybe target ሎም ማዓንቲ ጀሚሮም ሎሚ ብናይ እስራኤል ናይ ምሸት ኣሎ ብኣና ቢኤስኻ ቀትር ኣሎ ሰዓት 4 ማርኬት ክዕፀው ድሕሪ 2 ሰዓት ብኢስተርን ታይም so ህጂ ገብርዎ ዶ እዚ ቁርብ ሂንትታት ኣሎ ማለት እዩ I hope ህጂ ተዘገይሮም ኻ ውሲ ግን እቲ መሳርሒ እቲ bomba like bomb sorry bumpers backer buster is bahal au እንህለኩም backer busters ኣብኡሎ 30,000 pound ሒዙ ነቲ underground ነቲ Ford military night okay Fordon is bahal Fordo sorry did I say Fordo military ናይ image ከነም ፀይና ከዓንዎ ወይ ከኣትዎ ዝኽእል only missile ንስዩ ገና 10 ደቂቃ ስለ ዘለና ሕዋት ናብቲ ክንኣትይና ኦኬ እዚ መሳይል እዚ እንድሕር ሰዲዶም ጥራሕዮም ክኸይድ ዝኽእል እዚ መሳይል እዚ ከዓ ከም ዝሪኦ ዘለና 6 ሰዓት ኣወይ ካብ ናይ እስራኤል ወይ ከዓ ናይ 6 ሰዓት እዩ ዘሎ ንህለኩም እዚ እቲ ቦታ እዚ ናብዚ ንምእታዊ እዚ ኩሉ ናቱ ኢሜጅ እዩ where you go clear image ከሪኦኩም ያ ነህትልኩም እዚኣ ተቐንዲ ነሶ ነዚኣ ንኽኣትሎ ኦኬ ሓንቲ መሳርሒ ሓንቲ ባንከርስ ባሰሩን ክትኣትዋ ይትኽእልና እዚኣ እንታይ ዳ ሓንቲ ምስ ሃረመት ንሳውሽ ሰዓታት ሓንቲ ካልክ ኣብ ልዕሊ ክትኣትለዋ ማለት እዩ ምክንያቱ እዚ ናይ 9 ሜትር ንውሽጢ ኣትዩ ዘሎ እዚ ዝሪኦ ዘለና ናይቲ ፎርዶ ፋሲሊቲ ኒኩለር ፋሲሊቲ ነዚ ንምዕናዊ ትቐንዲ ኦኬ እዚ ግን ናብ ንእሽተይ ክንምለስ ኢና ዓንተቦ ፋክስ ያ እቲ ሱፕሪም ሊደርስ ነቲ ትራምፕ ትማሊ ዝገበሮ ኣዝዩ ተቃዊምዎ ከም ዝኾነ ዓንተቦ ቅድሚ ሰዓት ኣውፅኢ ፋክስ ኒውስ ንህለኩም ኖ ኢራን ኢዳ ኣይትህብን እያ ኢራን እንድሕር ዝኾነ ጌራ USA ኣብ ልዕሊ USA ቢግ ነገር ከም ዝወርድ እዩ ገሊፁ ንባዕሉ ሱፕሪም ሊደርስ ማለት እዩ ገና ነዚ ሱፕሪም ሊደር እዚ ኣብ ትሕቲ ቁፅፅርና ኣሎ ክንቀትሎ ተደሊና ክንቀትሎ ንኽእልና ግን ናው ኢሉ ትማሊ ትዊት ዝገብሮ ነበረ ትራምፕ እዩ እዚ ንህለኩም ግን ክቕተል እውን ኣይደልይዎን እዮም ብትክክል እዚ that's a good news so እንታይ ኢሉ ግን መሊስሎም ማዓንቲ ኖ እስራኤል እንድሕር ናብዚ ጉዳይ እዚ ተኣተዋልያ ነቲ ፀዋዕክና ትማሊ unconditional surrender ዝበልካዮ like ከምዚ ኢድካ ሃቡ በቃ خلاص ሰላም ግበሩ ኢድኩም ሃቡ ዝበልኩሞ ኖ ንሕና ኣይንገብርና so USA እንድሕር ኣብዚ ኮንፍሊክት ኣቲኺ ንሕና ኣብቲናትኩም ኣሰት ወይ ከዓ መሳይል ኣሎ ዝበሃል ኣብ ሚድል ኢስት ደብዳብ ክንገብር ኢና ዝብል ምፍርራሕ ሎም ማዓንቲ ካብቲ ሊደርስ ተመሓላሊፉ ማለት እዩ ወል እዚ ብትክክል ናብኡ ክኸይድ እዩ እንታይ ይመስል እንድዒ so as of now ከማን ክሪኦ ዓንተቦ ትዊት ጌርና ነርና ኣሕዋት ካብቲ ትዊት ሰዲድናዮ እቶም ዴሊጌሽን ትራምፕ እንታይ ኢሉ ናብኡ ክመፃኩም እየ let me stop this ገና ኣለና ግዜ ኣሕዋት ያ ካብቲ ማሊ ሎም ማዓንቲ ወፂኡ ትራምፕ by the way ተዛሪቢ እዩ ኖቲስ ገይሩ እዩ እንታይ ኢሉ ተሓቲቱ ለብዚ ሕተታት ቁርብ ክንሰምዕ ኢና ኣሕዋት ያ ነታ ዝበልና እቲ ሱፕሪም ሊደር ናይ ኢራን ሲ ኦኬ ነቲ መሊስዎ ዘሎ ንሕና ኢድና ይንህብን ኢና ኣብ ልዕሊ የእሰ ፈኸራ ዝገብሮ ዘሎስ እንታይ ክትብሎ ትኽእል ኢላቶ say good luck ፅቡቅ ዕድል የጋጥመካ ብለሎ ኦኬ
And what is the end game? When does your patience run out?
ማዓሲ ናትካ ዓቕሊ ተወዲ ወይ ከዓ ፔሸንት ራን ኣውት ኮይኑ ብለሎ ኦኬ ለስልስ
That's why we're doing what we're doing.
ኦኬ we already run out ባለች ፔሸንትና already ዓቕልና ወዲዩ ስለዚ that's why ትንገብሮ ዘለና ንገብር ኣለና እብላለሁ
They have 60 days and a big
ያ ሱሳ መዓልቲ ዕድል ተዋሂቦም ነዚ ብነግሸሽን ትኽፍረም ነትድል ስለዚ ኣብቲ ውሽጢ ሱሳ መዓልቲ ኣይገበሮን ስቲል ሕጂ እውን ይፅበዮም ከም ዘሎ ትራምፕ እዩ ዝሕብር ዘሎ
60 days, plenty of time. And they made a mistake, honestly. They made a mistake.
If the U.S. does strike
Their
nuclear
country's in
facilities,
ruins.
so ብትኽክል ሱሳ መዓልቲ ተዋሂቦም ሱሳ መዓልቲ ክገብሩ ይከኣሉን ስለዚ made a mistake ከም ዝገበሩ ይሕብር ኣሎ
So many people are dead that shouldn't be dead. It's a very sad thing. Let's watch this.
ብዙሕ ሰብ ከም ዝመተ ብዙሕ ሰብ ክመውት ኣይነበሮን እዚ ብድል ክውዳእ ነይርዎ እዩ ዝብል ካልእ ቀፂልና እዚኣ ክንሰምዓ ኢና ኣሕዋት
can you explain it for
Two
those
very
who
simple.
don't?
ሶሪ ድምፂ ብጣዕሚ ሕማቕ ኢሉ ያውኦም እዩ
Can you explain it for
Two
those
very
who
simple
don't?
words. Very simple. Unconditional surrender. That means I've had it. Okay, I've had it. I give up. No more. Then we go blow up all the all the nuclear stuff that's all over the place there. No, they had bad intentions. For 40 years, they've been saying death to America, death to Israel, death to anybody else that they didn't like. They were bullies. They were schoolyard bullies. And now they're not bullies anymore, but we'll see what happens. Look, nothing's finished until it's finished. War is very complex. A lot of bad things can happen. A lot of turns are made. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that we won anything yet. I would say that we sure as hell made a lot of progress. And we'll see. The next week is going to be very big. Maybe less than a week. Maybe less. But is there anybody here that said it would be okay to have a hostile, very, zealots really, but to have a hostile country have a nuclear weapon that could destroy 25 miles, but much more than that, could destroy other nations just by the breeze blowing the dust. That dust blows to other nations and they get decimated. This is just not a threat you can have. And we've been threatened by Iran for many years. If you go back and look at my history, if you go back 15 years, I was saying we cannot let Iran get a nuclear weapon. I've been saying it for a long time. I mean it more now than I
well
ever meant. Yeah.
ብሕፅር ዝበለ ኣሕዋት እንታይ እዩ ትራምፕ ኣብዚ እንታይ እዩ ዝገብር ዘሎ ያ ብትክክል ተፀቢናዮም ኢና ከምዚ ኮይኑ እዩ ሶ እቲ ኣማራፂ ዘለዎም ሕጂ ወይ ነቲ ዲል ክፍርምለዎም ራይድ ኣወይ ከምኡ እንድሕር ኮይኑ ግን as next week could be big next week could be less ይብሎ ኣሎ ንኣብነት I don't know next week ዲያ ዋላ ምሸዳ ፅባሕዳ ክንሪአ ኢና ስለዚ ብጣዕሚ ኣዝዩ ሓደገኛ ኩነታት
or you believe the US is moving closer to strike questions about
ሰምዑ ኣሕዋት USA ነቲ ስትራይፕ ንክገብርሲ ኣብኡ ሎድዩ ቀሪቡ ሎድዩ ተዳልዩ ሎድዩ ኣይነው ዓንተቦ ከምፃልኩም እዮም ወዳታ
questions about whether you are moving closer or you believe the US is moving closer to striking Iranian nuclear facilities. Where's your mindset on that?
I can't say that, right?
So nothing Iranian facility matin Fordo like the Fordo sorry نعوسي قريبا ما لوديوم ابو كهرمو دلوات لوديوم بلا I cannot say that بلا so عنتبون يشتي حبيروكم من حوات ابو most probably according source لنا كمارش جميرهم كابورح سلسته جميرهم so far let me ابزي عنتبو دحيركم زاتكم ديا غارسيا زبحال ناي انديان اوشان بيس كوينو USA تارجت ايران كتغبرلو ابو خمزلا ازي انا لكم تا B12 زي تا قندي تا علاماتها بكر باسر سبال ابو خمزلو ام زحبر زلو زيا at least maybe كلته خهلوا خلينا ابو كلته اندحرالين so far by the way USA كمزي تي باكر باسرس B-2 عسرا يخون الله نحنتي ان average 480 million 400 millions so ابزي اكبابي خمزلو ام زحبر زلو زي ناي military base ناي USA and United Kingdom so ابزي كبابي خمزلو اتا صوارو ناب ايدم كمزلا so ناب ايران خدو an average 6 ሰዓት ክውዳእ ከም ዝኽእል እቲ ሓበሬታታት እንድሕር ኣንቢብኮ ኢን ዲቴል so yeah ትኸይድ ዶ ኣይትኸይድ ዶ እዚ ካልእ ሕቶ እዩ ግን ይገብሩ ዶ ኣይገብሩን እዚ ካልእ ሕቶ ክንሪኤና መሊስና ግን according እቲ supreme leaders ከም ዝሓበሮ ግን ንሕና ኢድና ይንህብን ንሕና ነዚ ነገራት እውን ኣይንቅበሎን ዝብል ፈኸራታት ስለ ዘሎ maybe እዚ ማኣስ ክገብሮ ይኽእሉ እዩ እንተኢልና you have 4 minutes left ተሪፍን ኣሕዋት ማኣስ እዮም ገብርዎ ግን ማርኬት ምስ ተዓፀወ ዕዳጋ ምስ ተዓፀወ ክገብርዎ ይኽእሉ እዮም ነዚ ዕዳጋ እዚ maybe ዘይክርብሽዎ ይኽእሉ እዮም yeah Trump is so hard ናብ ናይ ማርኬት ካኹም ዝኽእሉና ንፈልጦ ማለት እዩ so ነታ 4 ደቂቕ ነዚኣ ንክንሰምዓ ኣሕዋት still እንታይ ኢሉ መሊሱ እንታይ ኢሉ መሊሱ ብዚኣ ሰምዕዎ ምክንያት ኣብኡ ቀሪብኩም ኣለኹም ዶ ኣብቲ ከባቢ no I cannot tell you ኣነ ክነግረካ ይደልኒ of course ሚሊታሪ ነገር ክሳብ ዝኾነ ኩልና ንፈልጦ ኢና ኣሕዋት
You don't seriously think I'm going to answer that question? Will you strike the Iranian nuclear component?
Are you straight to answer ክምልሰልኪ ድኺ ትፅበይ ዘለኺ it's just like you know it's impossible come on Trump is the ክገብሮ ይክእልኒ ካብቲ ማሉ ንባዕሉ ዝኾነ statement እውን ካይሃቡና እዮም ውዒሎም ባይ ዘ ወይ ሕጂ ሎም ዓንዲ ንጎይ statement ሂብና ዘሎ
And what time exactly, sir? Sir, would you
he's like teasing it's out አለ ይቅልደላ ክሰዓት ክንደይ ከምትሃርሞ እዚ ናይ ቆልዑ ጌርክ እዚ ዓይነት ይዛረብ ዘሎ okay
strike it? Would you please inform us so we can be there and watch? I mean, you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't
so yeah ንገርና ሰዓት ክንደይ ክትሃርም ክንዕዘብ so most probably እዚ ናይ 72 ሰዓት ይኾን open ክህልዎ ኣሕዋት ሕጂ እኳ maybe 48 hours ክህልዎ ክእል እዩ ግን
I may do it, I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can
yeah ክገብሮ ደ ኣይ ክገብሮ ደ nobody knows ማለት እዚ ኮንግረስ እውን ብትማሊ ዘትየመም ንባዕሉ AOC ናይ ዲሞክራቲክ ኮንግረስ ንባዕሉ ሳፖርት ከም ዝገብሮ ነዚ some of them yes ነቲ ክጥቀመሉ ከም ዝኽእል ግን still ኣብ ናይ ኮንግረስ እውን ገለ ክትዕክልዓሊ ተላዒሉ ኣሎ ባይ ዘ ወይ ኣበይ finish ገብሮ ግን እንድዒ
tell you this that Iran's got a lot of trouble and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with?
So Iran abuzux travel atemalo so they want a negotiation. I think so is Trump maybe in the ባዕሉ ዝገብሮ ዘሎ advertisement ካይኮን ምክንያቱ ዝኾነ ሰርስ ብዛዕቡ ተዛሪቦም እንደገና ዓንተ በኻ ከም ዘይበልና የሚሎም ኢራን ናብ ዋይት ሃውስ ካይተረፈ ክመፁ ከም ዝደልዩ ነዚ
before all this death and destruction, why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? You could have done fine. You would have had a country. It's very sad to watch this. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It's so, you know, everyone thought it was going to be the reverse. I didn't.
well ስለምንታይ እዚ ቅድሚ ክልተ ሰሙን ዘይትገብሮ ሃገር መሃለወትኩም ህዝቢ መሃለወ ህዝብመት ኣብ 200 ይኸውን ህዝቢ ከም ዝመተ ኣብ ዝሕበር ናይ ኢራን as of now and then ኣብ እስራኤል so that's about 24 so ሃገር መሃለወትኩም ህዝቢ መሃለወኩም ህንጻይ መዓነውን ባህላ እዩ ግን we don't know ናብ ዋይት ሃውስን ክመፁ ከም ዝደለዩ ሓቢሩ ንሳ ቁርብ ሊምቦ ኮይናላ ሊምቦ ማለት ሚድል ኮይናላ ኣሕዋት ፅቡቅ ተስፋ ነይሩ ዓንተቦ I think so ሕጂ ክርኢ ከለና ሶርስ ግን I don't think so ከም ዘይበሉ ጥራሕ እዩ ዘሎ still እቲ supreme leaders ናይ ኢራን ኣብ ከምቲ ዓንተቦ ዝሓብርናዮ ያ ኣሜሪካ እንድሕር ናብዚ ኣቲኺ ንሕና እውን ንገብሮ ዓብይ ነገር ኣሎ so we got to be watch yourself ኢልዩ ፈኸራታት ትገብር ዘሎ ንዋል this is ንህለኩም ማለት እዩ ያ ብምቕፃል ሓንቲ ንእሽተይ ቀድሚ ናብ ናይ ጀሮም ፓወል ክንመፅእ ኢና ኣሕዋት yes so እዚኣ ንሪኣ ዘለና ኣሕዋት ድሕርኩም ብዙሓት ስለ ዝኣተኹም ሳልሳይ ግዜ ዝኾን
a strike group to Europe next week. They're moving the USS Ford aircraft carrier.
look this aircraft carrier እዚ ብምሉእ ፅዋር ሳልሳይ ግዜ ይሰድለው ናብ እስራኤል ኣሕዋት ኣብዚ almost 70 ገለን ይኾን aircraft ክህልዋ ክእላን መዓት ዝኾነ ነፈርቲ ደን መዓት ኣፅዋራት ሒዙ ዝኸይ ዘሎ so ኣዝዩ
battle group to the eastern Mediterranean closer to Israel. It will be the third U.S. aircraft carrier nearby the conflict between Israel and Iran, and that move follows a very intense.
All right, let's go to market. I think so. Yes, the summary is out for sure. Don't get khaman allahu hada da ahlife. Let's go QQ niraya. Summary higis wada QQ. Oh my goodness, QQ is up. Something good. Look this hawat. QQ was here and then just keep going up. Keep going up. All right, what is the summary? Let's see. I think so. Something good. Let me back that. Let me share as a whole. Let's back to our economy. Let's share as a whole. Yeah, QQ is up. QQ is up, guys. Yeah, Tesla is all bullshit. QQ is up. Boom. What is? Let's go type it. FOMC meet. Okay, let me write it. Okay, FOMC me. Let me write it for me, please. Why you stop doing it? Meeting. Yeah, QQ is up. Yeah, something good. Something good. It's an Israel. He's not any what? Something good. Let's go. FOMC meeting. Something good. Yep. Summary is out. PDF. This is the most important. There you go. We'll see. Look this. What? My goodness. Okay. ما أول حسلسته GDP نا US بحدنا شوعات عبيد كري. Oh, still the most important. Look this. What? Still not change. كل تجزي rate cut علنا. Still 3.9 نيرو. أبز حلفه still هجون 3.9 على. زي أنا ماركت حفا بلاتا. زي أنا هلكم زيادة زي لنا تبي. Sorry. أبصراحة سلزل لكم بيريك يولان مالي. This is زي yes. سلزي أيكونس one. زي أفريه نيرو منال بعد. بسنكزي inflation ناي نبعلون ناي oil نهلكم ناي كنات مسئي زلو بسنكو نزبل زيا كندي جزي ولد قرط يوم نزبل أبز عامز تسفاز نبرا still أي تغيرت كل تجزي rate cut علنا أحوات. This is good news. This is great news. Great. That's what it is. QQ is bullshit up and a little down now too, but still okay. Nothing changed. All right, hold on, guys.
Do you have a modelo coming yet? Okay. So maybe so. And then we have a shirt of this separate. I don't think so. José Cuervo, a double shirt of José Cuervo. No, this is separate.
All right, sorry guys. Okay, I'm back. Okay, federal fund rate 3.9. Good. And then March our Celeste Nai core PCE 2.8 تثبت نيرونا هجنا 3.1. Yes, because of tariff. No question. Bullshit tariff. March abnai PC inflation year over year without core malady 2.7 تثبت نيرونا 3.0. It's not a lot حوات. Unemployment March 4.4 تثبت نيرونا هجي unemployment rate and 4.5 little 0.2 أدقرو. GDP ب 1.7 grows قبل تثبت نبرو 1.4. Yeah, nothing sign. This is great report. I know. Ziko خابون لعلك هو نيرو 3.9. Maybe. All right. Maybe maybe but Jerome Powell عش مسفرقات لازم this is great أحوات still صبوا report you as of now of course it's kind of back and down مالت KQ was up and then down now and then again back up تقبرالو نازداك مالتي so okay Fed's fund rate انتا نيرو oh holy shit 4.33 نيرو امود اتا زعما ذا 4.33 زلا almost ناب 3.9 كتوردا تكنيكال انتا انا نزلنا 0.5 اون ولد مقراص الله كلتا غزي ولد قرص يخلي سي ام فد ندحر كوينا كيدنا معاسيوم قرصو نزل كي yes 100% جون لما عنتي قرصن جولاي ون ايمسلنن سبتمبر كهلونا خلي كاب سبتمبر 38.6% حانت ريت كات كتهلونا دحرو اكتوبر كا وان مورتلينا وال good news you سلسته غزي لنا مسكرم ورح 9 ورح 10 حدا ابزين سلسين اندحر 0.5 ريت كات غيرهم ار ماركت باك اب قبر ازي كنبل كنا باك اب قبر كله غنحوات از كله ازي سبيشالي ناي ايران اند اسرائيل كنتات ندحر عارفي مهنياتنا ايران اند اسرائيل ندحر كنتات نابت زدا قرب خيرو خابزن لعل خيرو ابتناي هرمز ناي اندحر هاريمهم وال اويل هاي كوني خلي اندحر اويل هاي كوينو انفليشن داغماي كفتر يخلي انقفات فدرالس كفطروا لهم خلي yeah good index all up down is up 0.29 and S&P is up 0.26 and then Nasdaq is up 0.37 and Russell is up 0.92 VIX is down not happy still 5.51 down Kanazala still but we need that a little down malati what do we have in here okay the companies of the Wednesday yes although swing that's all right the unemployment rate has stabilized as low level and the labor market conditions remain solid increase anyway تبقى يحدث تغير زله let me back to عن طبعا تايلو نابخ مصاكم حوات ناب ترامب كنمصينا هجن جيروم باول انتايلو جيروم باول جنا ساع مس فرقاي خمص حوات فارسم فرقان يخجمر نعينا نسمع سي ام I have مناظر
left front door
I don't right Wednesday okay جيروم باول مس فرق ساعات هلاته okay let's go in here عن طبو انتايلو جيروم باول I know حوات ابتاش من نبركم ابزي بزعبا ناي اسرائيل ودينا انا اهب الجناب ناي ايكونومي ناتنا زلنا حبشة education اندحر كيدنا I just repost يعني رنسا زي انا اسمع يا حوات well ازي ني احوات ني جيروم باولي بتعمي I guess I don't know بحال نير وديو انت از بلو زلو so President Trump is not like you know ني جيروم باول yeah I think it's الان مخانو he should call you know he should call him every name book trying to get him do something I call him too late come on too late let's have dinner yeah بزح complaints go I don't think so لما عن تريد كات كم زي قرص جن oh wow يلا خندي حوات hold on I thought okay guys sorry it's all a lot of source كهين هجي let's go get it yeah اسكي سمعوا زي انت كم زبون جيروم باول
now we have Amanda but now we have a man that just refuses to lower the Fed rate, just refuses to do it. And he's not a smart person. I don't even think he's that political. I think he hates me, but that's okay. You know, he should. He should. I call him every name in the book, trying to get him to do something. I've been nice to him. I do it always. I don't know how to sell. I've been so nice to him, fellas, you wouldn't believe. Let's have dinner. Too late. I call him too late. Come on, too late. Let's have dinner. I do it every way in the book. I'm nasty. I'm nice. Nothing works. He's like just a stupid person. But now.
Yeah, that word is he finally is gabra. He's stupid person. Mebalo is bad, mality. Yeah, he's too late menu. Rate cut. I correct the law. Demand the Gabru Trump by the way. Lomanti Lomukan as they correct again at the end of a more data as Ahmed. Kababi Klitter person could correct Al Kailo. Still gun comes on Riazalna according the summary report to the Habnailo Mantigan. But still 0.5 تراهم كورس وحاف معلش حافون الله نحن مز تعريف مسكال كال خلناتات تغير مسيلنا يرمبر دارجا أي تغيرن حاف نتقاريت أمون it's fine معناته next year big زخون ريت كات كلهم خلي أبتنا يتعرف حوات أبتنا يتعرف بزح فيل جيري ترامب انت أقول كله جابان على لا يتملسنا الله غرتا جابان يتملسنا الله مس إنديا سمع معكم زلوا next man إزبالو kind of نتي تعرف تقبرنا نبر بزح like بزح feedback كم زي رخبوا دارجا كلهم شلل كم زبالو يو تزرع زلوا big message icon هجي so it's 10% base point نخلن غير كات أو كبدي قبل خنرينا by July 9 كسب زخنة July 9 أمود أتها نستعرينا مالتي بموصل ترامب نبي حكي أزيو upset كم زخنة إذا حبر زلوا let's see what happened. Get this answer this call. Okay. So الساعة اللي هنا جيروم بول حوات دحري 15 دقيقة خمس نملس نابتي summary look dot okay dot right well as of now 2026 mostly up 2026 but down خوني خليت زبز حبز إنا رئيزلنا تداتنا زبز حساب زلو almost alright brother good to see you again thank you see you yes so قال حدا نهلكم 2.5 maybe at the end of 2026 like حدا سابقونا ب 2.5 قلت وريدون بركاب زم 10 شعته داس درجة mostly نهلكم أبز حلفه هبه منا نبورون هجن عبي في اللي قالوا نهلك كلهم like أبي مزلو معلجي so this is previous and then this is now anyway نسي إزلو let's see back again the answer in a long range abzin رأي 2025 3.9 to 4.4 نيرو أي تغير 0.9 to 4.4 2026 0.1 0.9 3.1 3.9 أي تغيرن 2027 2.9 to 3.6 زيون أي تغيرن like most probably nothing changes in here GDP 1.4 تثبت لنا 1.2 to 1.5 little GDP مالت economically slow down كونيو نيشتي slow down comes خون حبير لهم unemployment rate ون please up كبر خلينا 4.4 to 4.5 مالت عبي نقدر يكون still well like you know 4.4 تتصبيهم 4.5 around تخون at the end of the year مالت it's not a big deal nothing big deal is مالت so Jerome Powell and that تتصبنا خلنا let's see if there is any ولا حتى اللي يمكن ملسنا خلنا بزي by the way ناي إسرائيل and then إيران تخون حدش حبريتات اللي يمكن كرينا إسرائيل and إيران جون ماركت مستعد قرب لو تتذكر خلي أحوات be careful تام especially margin قلقلة تقوم look this market still happy مالت بزي ماركت خير نيرو up down كيرو أبي خير مالت you know still most probably because of all this وايس هاي نير عن تبون أبناء تسلا 328.66 بتي هنير عن تايو تم delegation ويك قالوا أخوات ناي سلام زبلونا بأمارس خودم خانم زبل نيوز شعم صوتي هاي كيدا دحرو نسو كم دي لايك ايبلنا زبل ملس مسمصي بوم دحر غيره هجخا نايزي نيوز ناي FOMC meeting كا ستيل كلتا غزي ولدون قورطيو مابزع بزي تسفالو مسبلوخا بوم هاي كيدا ستيل هاي الله مالكي جنزي نيوز بسلي ناي إيران and إسرائيل ماركت كنقاسقس زغل نهجي راح يزيمبر እዚ ዳውን ክኸውን ይኽእል ይሕዋት ስፔሻሊ እንድሕር ከይድኩም እዚ ክቕየር ይኽእል እዩ ስማዕ ኣለኹም እሺ ኦኬ أو نعم أبي أوكي أظهر كبره سلازي عوت ميكيل أنت هيدا الزارب زلوه عرب ولا الزارب زلوه بزي عوت ميكيل انت هيدا الزارب زلوه عرب ابراهيم لو دحابي انت زي حقس كازي دست زي لك خدوت طرحه خاتخل كابزي من البات اندحر زي ساينس زي مردا انت ابيكا most probably okay حوات جيروم باول نا تصبنا انت اينا كنقبر يا همت انت وزبلنا تسلا انت وزر اخو مسيل نمبر اير اخو من مسلني yeah QQ a little bit up and down do Jerome Paul and Tybeli Mets okay yeah still down is up and then S&P is up Nasdaq is up Russell is up what we can search X if there is anything حدش نجر Well, U.S. Embassy mission personnel have begun deporting Israel. Malit U.S. Embassy, U.S. Treasury issued a Russian-related journal and a big deal. Okay, traders still almost fully priced in 2 Fed rate cut 2025. Yes, clit rate cut comes out of 2025. Okay, it's about Fed sees 4.5 unemployment rate. Tazra ana nahwat. October rate cut adds 85%, like you know. Vice 80%. Well, مسكرم كجمهور يقول يا محوات جد إزرعنايو رأنايو يقولوا yes interest rate yes rate further factors 46 BP in the right. Okay, inflation remains somewhat elevated. Yeah, a little قرب وسخ كم زجبره implementation. Okay. يا زرعنايو حدش نقدر تلي زخونا ينترخب كل أبزي حوات. Yeah, according to CNN, Israel official, Iran has launched about 400 ballistic missiles and 11 drones at Israel so far, only 20 of which fell on civilian area sky. Okay. كابدم كلهم دخلوا إسرائيل يخونوا تراي أبناء civilian area خمسة على بقى مزلوا كالجن قال لي تقاتلوا قال لي بلمان and will strike Iran nuclear weapons missile and military headquarters. Oh wow. Nathan, we will strike Iranian nuclear weapons and like in war and missiles military headquarters. Okay. Oh, another good news. That is the one. Ahwat. Okay, next week. It's a big, beautiful bills pass. GOP. Okay, Senator, maybe the reconciliation next week, that tax bill, it's going to pass. My goodness, it's a big pump to the market, but big ada next for next generation. Big ada. So that's why next week is a big week and week Zivela Trump paleti. Okay. We have an if there is any questions can listen So Trump in his remark, okay, Trump speaks report at the White House, Trump's on Iran, a lot of intelligence, okay. All right, let's go. Which one is the best? Big failure. Yeah. እዚኣ እንታይ ብላ እዚኣ ጅሮም ፓውል እንዳተጸበና Okay, let's go something. Yeah, early bird, I know. Hope so. Okay. Yeah, hope مرة تربيش كالله no report نيز قبل الكازل لهم تا تخلويني انت غربش دا fast تحلف الكالله fast برالو دا حوبي friends okay zero كايكو hope it will be out of be our week yeah تغكل مالك next week maybe it's a big beautiful bill in the حليفة ስለዚህ ንዓዲ beautiful next week yeah long week we got strong week we got ዝበለጸ ዝብላ ዘሎ most probably ንዓዲ ዝኾን ዘሎ ስለዚህ yeah next week it's a big beautiful ተሓሊፋ ንርአይ ኣሕዋት ካል thank you yes thank you guys thank you Robbie okay ኣሕዋት ولا حنتي سامري خنقبرنا يدليناني كلن حيزناينا مثلا تردينا اللو بحالا كلتا جزي ولد مغراز قلنا as of now unemployment rate ka Europe will must say anything next week if the bill is Victoria I got that good point I don't think so Victoria good صبوتنا بخمسي خزلخي already ናይ mask and Trump is never food like at is never ممللاسن يا متصرافن already ريغريس لز ገበረ ኢላን ወላ ትራምፕን ለሐንቲ ቡሽ ተኸም ተዳወሉን ተኾነ ሶርስ ሓበሬታ ኣሎ ምንም it's already passed ክትሐልፍ ያ so that big beautiful bills እንድሕር ሓሊፋ already ወዲ ኢላን ማስክ እንታይ ዘሎ ባይ ዘ ወይ ናይቲ ኢቪ 7500 ቲ ናይ ኢቪ ናቱ ክሬዲት ታቢል ምሳይን ምስኮነት ኣብ ውሽጢ 180 መዓልቲ ኣክቲቭ ክኸውን ይሕዋቶም ሶላር تدولي هجي 30% كترخبو تخلولو ابزا زلواهم almost 180 معالت طرحين زلوا مالتي سلازي يا مالت مكينه تغزو اندحر الكترونيك مكينه تغزو تليهم كا تابيل مسافرت كبا 180 معالتي زلو اتناي بروبرتي تاكسي او قرب كاتعم نيرو نسو يا نداون غيرمو زلو beautiful انت يالله والطبع له وانت او معات يزلو بحدا غزي ريبورت غيرنا نيرنا او معات نتبتات يزلو ناي تاكسي تقملو ستيل موستلي ناي تاكسي تقملو بزح ادفانتج له سلازي فليلنا دحان جيروم باول دحر حموش دق كمصي علنتي نطب ግን دحر حموش دق سلاز مص جيروم باول كنسمع علنا نطبي ون كحس سلازلن انت زي كوين امبر خنقلصينا تا بيج بيوتيفول بيلس مس حلفت مالس قداي سدتኛታት ولا حنت يلن انجينير حوي بتقلل حدش حبريتا يلن تمالي زخون نيوس نيرا بايزوي او خلو خنغركم نتوم اي سي سراحتኛታት اب فاكتور يسرحو اب ريستورانت يسرحو اب ناي هنصا يسرحو اب كال يسرحو كيدكم كترزوم كم زيبلكم زبل فيليب غيرلو ترامب مالتي كيدكم ايتحازوم ايطرزوم زبل زرباتات جميرلو يا screen share يبلين يا ابراهيم ولا حنت screen share يبلين يا تخكل I have yeah you're right let me back that screen share ها yes yeah እንዳ ተጸበናይ ማለት ነው يا اندا تتصبنا بنا قرب شاي قرب قلعنا قربي تامص اتودي اول سعيد كمال يزبل anyway እዚህ ቃል እዚህ ንገሊእኩም ብዙሕ ዘይክርዳእኩም ይኽእል ይሕዋት ማለት እዚ I know many ተኽለወይኒ ትቕልጥፍ ኣለኻ ዓንተ ዝበለ እዚ ሕዋት ኩሉ ግዜ ኢና ሪፖርት ንገብሮ ነቶም ሓደሽቲ ብጣዕሚ እዚ ክርዳእኩም ከም ዘይክእል ይኣምነ ኣዝዩ like ክብድ ዝበለ ማተሪያል ግን ሄልና ከነብሎ ይንኽእልና ሓበሻ ኤዱኬሽን ብዛዕባ እዚ ሪፖርት ከም ንገብር ኦልሬዲ ዓመታት ኮይኑ ኣሎ ይቕረታ ቀሲልና ክንገልጾና ይንኽእልና ሪፖርት ላይፍ ክሳብ ዝኾነ እንዳቐልጥፍካ ኢኻ ትኸይድ ይርዳእኒ ግን ሓድሽ ሰብ ክርዳኦ ከም ዘይክእል ቅልጥፍ ኢሉ ኣይ yes ይርዳእኒ so welcome to ሓበሻ ኤዱኬሽን ሕዋት ብዛዕባ እዚ in detail እንድሕር ክትመሃሩ ደሊኹም እዚ ኩሉ ክትፈልጡ እንድሕር ደሊኹም በቃ ክትመፁ ትኽእሉኹም ምሳና ክትመሃሩ ትኽእሉኹም እዚ ኩሉ ብዙሓት ተማሃረና እውን ኣብዚ ዘለዉ ህጅን ባዕሎም እዚ ባይ ዘ ወይ ተማሃረና ሪፖርት ባዕሎም ዝገብሮ so let me ናብታ ዝሓተትካኒ ብዛዕባ ኢንጂነር ናይ ኢሚግሬሽን ዋላ ሓንቲ የለን ትሪኦ ኣለኻ እዚ ናይ ኢሚግሬሽን ኩነታት ንባዕሉ ብዘንኪ ያ እዚ ናይ እስራኤል ኢራን ከዓ ናዘር ካልእ ሕቶ መፂና ኣሎ ፕላስ ያ ፕላስ ናይ ታሪፍ ኣብኡ እዩ ዘሎ ትራምፕ ገና ናብኡ ተመልፀን I guess ኢልና ጥራይና ክንፅበ ዘለና ሕጂ ዋላ ሓንቲ ሓድሽ ነገር የለን ሚሽን ፐርሰናል ሃብ ቢጋን ዲፖርት in Israel okay ናቲን ካልእቲ በዚኣ ስለ ዘላት Yeah, Palantir, and then what is Palantir? Is Palantir is good? Let me see. Palantir. Yeah, Palantir. What's a get out of let me see. What's Palantir? Nothing. Bizarre yellow ko Palantir. Let me see. Malit Palantir. Let me back that. Yeah, 2 minutes. Okay. So Palantir. Almost. አንተቦ ከምወ ዝመልና አንተቦ ታኒው ሲያን ኣብዚ ሃገራቶም ነራ ስምምዕ ኢራንን ያ ኢራን ልኡኻት ናብ ኡማር ሰሪዳን ዝብል አንተቦ ቦ ማርኬት was back here ነሩ ብጣዕሚ ተመሊሱ ጽቡቕ ነሩ ድሕሪኡ እቲ ኒውስን ብዙሕ ምእመኒ ከም ዘይብሉ ምስተረጋገፀን ድሕሪ ተመሊሱ ሕጂ ከዓ ኣብዚ ታሕቲ ነራ ፓለንቴር እንተሪኢኹም ኣብዚ ነራ ደን ናይዚ FOMC meeting ka a little upgrade Palantir ሓንቲ ኣከም ዚ ነገር mostly data ናይ government ስለ ዝሕዝ ሕዋት software ናይ government ናይ military ናይ ኩሉ ስለ ዝሕዝ Palantir እዚ ኩነታት ብዙሕ ዘይክጸልዎ እዩ ምክንያቱ all time 52 weeks high 144.86 በፂሕ ዘሎ most ወላ ንባዕላ እዚ ዘንድ ህሳያተን ካል high growth stock እየን ተስላውን you know oil ክሳብ ዘይትኾነ oil ንሕርሽ ግረፈጢሩ maybe high demand ናብ EV መኪና ክመጽእ ይኽእል እዩ ግን overall ብምሉእ እቲ index ስለ ዝህሰ እቲ ኩነታት እዩ ዝሃስዮ ካለ ሓድሽ ነጥቢ ሓድሽ ኒውስ ኣየንበብኩን ኣነ ሜክሲኮ ዘይ ያ ደዲ ያ you welcome ተኽለወይኒ brother thank you okay Sophie I don't know Sophie no home እንታይ ኣሎ okay 1 minute away ያ እዛ ናይ ታሽሙ አንተ በተንኪፈ ሮማ ቁርብ ክንጽበለና ወላ ሓንቲ ሓድሽ ነገር የለን በሉ ንኽድ ጅሮም ፓውል እንታይ ይኽብለና ንስማዓዮ almost 1 minute up እስኪ እንታይ ገብር ብሉ ወላ red
Would you say you're both? Are you more one or the other? Okay.
Oh, green. Oh, forever green. All right. Look this. انت عين الكرافات هيقبر حوات. Mostly purple. There you go. Purple. Forever you miss that. Purple Geru. All right, listen then.
Good afternoon. My colleagues and I remain squarely focused on achieving our dual mandate goals of maximum employment and stable prices for the benefit of the American people. Despite elevated uncertainty, the economy is in a solid position. The unemployment rate remains low, and the labor market is at or near maximum employment. Inflation has come down a great deal, but has been running somewhat above our 2% longer run objective. In support of our goals, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged. We believe that the current stance of monetary policy leaves us well positioned to respond in a timely way to potential economic developments. I'll have more to say about monetary policy after briefly reviewing economic developments. Following growth of 2.5% last year, GDP was reported to have edged down in the first quarter, reflecting swings in net exports that were driven by businesses bringing in imports ahead of potential tariffs. This unusual swing has complicated GDP measurement. Private domestic final purchases, or PDFP, as we call them, which excludes net exports, inventory investment, and government spending, grew at a solid 2.5% rate. Within PDFP, growth of consumer spending moderated, while investment in equipment and intangibles rebounded from weakness in the fourth quarter. Surveys of households and businesses, however, report a decline in sentiment over recent months and elevated uncertainty about the economic outlook, largely reflecting trade policy concerns. It remains to be seen how these developments might affect future spending and investment. In our summary of economic projections, the median participant projects GDP to rise 1.4% this year and 1.6% next year, somewhat slower than projected.
We've got about 50 million followers. We're in the billions of views, and we're a small team. We always felt like our content was all about entertainment and being fun.
3 months. The unemployment rate at 4.2% remains low and has stayed in a narrow range for the past year. Wage growth has continued to moderate while still outpacing inflation. Overall, a wide set of indicators suggests that conditions in the labor market are broadly in balance and consistent with maximum employment. The labor market is not a source of significant inflationary pressures. The median projection for the unemployment rate in the SEP is 4.5% at the end of this year and next, a bit higher than projected in March. Inflation has eased significantly from its highs in mid-2022, but remains somewhat elevated relative to our 2% longer run goal. Estimates based on the Consumer Price Index and other data indicate that total PCE prices rose 2.3% over the 12 months ending in May, and that excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core PCE prices rose 2.6%. Near-term measures of inflation expectations have moved up over recent months, as reflected in both market and survey-based measures. Respondents to surveys of consumers, businesses, and professional forecasters point to tariffs as the driving factor. Beyond the next year or so, however, most measures of longer-term expectations remain consistent with our 2% inflation goal. The median projection in the SEP for total PCE inflation this year is 3%, somewhat higher than projected in March. The median inflation projection falls to 2.4%.
ኣብ መወዳእታ ኣሕዋት ኣይነው ተርጉመልና ትብሉ ዘለኹም ፕሊዝ ኣብ መወዳእታ ጽማቕ ኣለና እጅ ስኢልና ንስማዕ እዩ ላፍ ክሳብ ዝኾነ ኣብ መወዳእታ ግን ጽማቕ ኣለና ፕሊዝ thank you
in 2026 and 2.1% in 2027. Our monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. At today's meeting, the committee decided to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 4.25% to 4.5% and to continue reducing the size of our balance sheet. We will continue to determine the appropriate stance of monetary policy based on the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. Changes to trade, immigration, fiscal, and regulatory policies continue to evolve, and their effects on the economy remain uncertain. The effects of tariffs will depend, among other things, on their ultimate level. Expectations of that level, and thus of the related economic effects, reached a peak in April and have since declined. Even so, increases in tariffs this year are likely to push up prices and weigh on economic activity. The effects on inflation could be short-lived, reflecting a one-time shift in the price level. It's also possible that the inflationary effects could instead be more persistent. Avoiding that outcome will depend on the size of the tariff effects, on how long it takes for them to pass through fully into prices, and ultimately on keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our obligation is to keep longer-term inflation expectations well anchored and to prevent a one-time increase in the price level from becoming an ongoing inflation problem. As we act to meet that obligation, we will balance our maximum employment and price stability mandates, keeping in mind that without price stability, we cannot achieve the long periods of strong labor market conditions that benefit all Americans. We may find ourselves in the challenging scenario in which our dual mandate goals are in tension. If that were to occur, we would consider how far the economy is from each goal and the potentially different time horizons over which those respective gaps would be anticipated to close. For the time being, we are well positioned to wait to learn more about the likely course of the economy before considering any adjustments to our policy stance. In our SEP, FOMC participants wrote down their individual assessments of an appropriate path for the federal funds rate based on what each participant judges to be the most likely scenario going forward. The median participant projects that the appropriate level of the federal funds rate will be 3.9% at the end of this year, the same as projected in March. The median projection declines to 3.6% at the end of next year and to 3.4% at the end of 2027, a little higher than the March projection. These individual forecasts are always subject to uncertainty, and as I've noted, uncertainty is unusually elevated. And of course, these projections are not a committee plan or decision. At this meeting, the committee continued its discussions as part of our 5-year review of our monetary policy framework. We focused on issues related to assessing the risks and uncertainties that are relevant for monetary policy and the potential implications for policy strategy and communications. Our review includes outreach and public events involving a wide range of parties, including Fed Listens events around the country and a research conference that we held last month. We are open to new ideas and critical feedback, and we will take on board lessons of the last 5 years in determining our findings. We intend to wrap up any modifications to our statement on longer run goals and monetary policy strategy by late summer. After that, we will consider enhancements to our suite of communications tools, including the SEP. The Fed has been assigned 2 goals for monetary policy: maximum employment and stable prices. We remain committed to supporting maximum employment, bringing inflation sustainably to our 2% goal, and keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our success in delivering on these goals matters to all Americans. We understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in service to our public mission, and we at the Fed will do everything we can to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Yeah, okay. Now, حتتات إنا خنا أتحوات هجي حتتات إنتاي كحتتي most probably تقندي أب تحت هجي. إذا قلت تصنحي أبتاناي summary زرعنايو inflation نازيك مسليو إنتاي إلو نشتي مالتي inflation قصلي خيل بسنك تعرف نسلو أب قصالي temporary أيكونن كمزي نوح زبالة خوصرلنا خيلي دا أيك إيرناين أتي كلتا جزء كات كلونا خيلي تعنت بزبالة ولا حنتي لن أب حتى تستوهلج إنتاي له حتى إنتاي لي ملص ماركتون بقى بتعمي عابي نجار كتنقص أستخلي نخيد.
Thank you. Colby Smith with the New York Times. To what extent has the more limited impact from tariffs at this stage on inflation changed your view on what the ultimate economic fallout will be from these policies and the timing of when they will materialize in the data?
So we've had 3 months of favorable inflation readings since the high readings of January and February, and that's, of course, highly welcome news. Part of that just is that services, core services, both housing services and non-housing services, have really been grinding down toward levels that are consistent with 2% inflation. So that's the good news. We've had goods inflation just moving up a bit, and of course we expect, as you point out, we do expect to see more of that over the course of the summer. It takes some time for tariffs to work their way through the chain of distribution to the end consumer. A good example of that would be goods being sold at retailers today may have been imported several months ago before tariffs were imposed. So we're beginning to see some effects, and we do expect to see more of them over coming months. We do also see price increases in some of the relevant categories like personal computers and audiovisual equipment and things like that that are attributable to tariff increases. In addition, we look at surveys of businesses, and there are many of those, and you do see a range of things, but many companies do expect to put all or some or all of the effective tariffs through to the next person in the chain, and ultimately to the consumer. Today, the amount of the amount of the tariff effects, the size of the tariff effects, their duration and the time it will take are all highly uncertain. So that is why we think the appropriate thing to do is to hold where we are as we learn more. And we think our policy stance is in a good place where we're well positioned to react to incoming developments.
So in terms of how we should interpret the rate cuts penciled into the SEP, is this reflecting that there's this expectation that underlying inflation will just stay well enough contained that allows the committee to eventually move ahead with those cuts? Or is it about, responding to a deterioration in economic activity, let's say? I mean, how should we make sense of the forecast?
So if you look at the forecast, you will see that people do generally expect inflation to move up.
Hi, and thanks, Chair Perry. Howard Schneider with Reuters. If you look at the rate path starting in December to today and adjusted over the full time horizon you've got there, you've taken about a quarter point per year out of your projected path, and you end at a higher rate at end 2027 than you would have in the prior forecast. Is that a result of a sense that tariffs will lead to more persistent inflation? Is it a result of reassessments of where your short-term neutral rate is? Why are you on a slower path now?
So I would focus most on the nearer term. As you get out to the later years, it's hard for anybody to know where the economy is going. You didn't see people moving their longer term, estimate of the neutral rate, for example, at this meeting. So and those things are probably slow moving. So I think if you look at what's happening here since March, this is since March, right? You see a little slower growth, just a tiny tick up, a 1/10 tick up in unemployment, and you see inflation moving up 0.3. And by the way, it was a similar move from the December SEP to the March. So that's what you see. You see the effects of tariffs. I think we learned in April after the March meeting that substantially higher tariffs were likely, and then since then, the estimates of where the tariffs will be have actually moved back down, although still at an elevated level. So we're adapting in real time, and what you see is an accumulation of individual assessments.
But you say in the statement that risks have diminished on that front, but the July 9th, drop dead date for all the Liberation Day tariffs is still out there and unresolved. You've got now exchange of missiles between two Middle East adversaries with a possible U.S. involvement. How can you justify saying that risks have diminished?
So what we said was that uncertainty uncertainty about the economic outlook has diminished but remains elevated. Many surveys say that they do. So and that's actually a line from the Teal book, which you can see in 5 years. Remember to check that.
Maybe the war will be over.
No, but if you think about it, tariff uncertainty really peaked in April, and since then has come down. And that's really what that's just acknowledging. It's diminished, but still elevated. That it's uncertainty. So I think that's an accurate statement.
Thank you. Chris Rugaber at Associated Press. There is an argument out there in favor of cutting rates more immediately. Inflation has continued to cool and is back at roughly 2% despite the tariffs. And I guess I also wanted to ask about, cracks in the job market with gross hiring slowing, concentrated in just a few industries. We've seen some housing data, including this morning, that have been pretty weak. Do you see any concerns that, the economy is weakening and that is a reason to cut rates going forward?
So we do, of course, monitor all those things. I think if you look at the overall picture, what you're seeing is 4.2% unemployment and an economy that's growing at a rate hard to know given the unusual flows in the first quarter, but it appears to be 1.5–2%, maybe a little better than that. Sentiment has come up off of its very low levels. It's still depressed. So you can point to things. The housing market is a longer run problem and also a short run problem. I don't think it's indicative of basically the situation is we have a longer run shortage of housing, and we also have high rates right now. I think the best thing we can do for the housing market is to restore price stability in a sustainable way and create a strong labor market, and that's the best thing we can do for the housing market. You asked about the job market. Again, look at labor force participation, look at wages, look at job creation. They're all at healthy levels now. I would say you can see perhaps a very, very slow continued cooling, but nothing that's troubling at this time. But we watch it very, very carefully. So overall, again, the current stance of monetary policy leaves us well positioned to respond in a timely way to economic developments, and for now, and we'll be watching the data carefully.
Well, just quickly on, given that there are concerns inflation will rise, but there is the alternate scenario that tariffs would create demand destruction and slow growth sufficiently, and that would perhaps keep a bit of a lid on inflation. Do you see odds of that scenario? What kind of odds do you see of that scenario coming true, and how many months of cool inflation would you need to see before concluding that maybe that lower inflation scenario is taking place? So
this is very much the conversation we had today and yesterday. There are many, many different scenarios, many combinations of scenarios where inflation does or doesn't prove out to be at the levels we think, and where the labor market does or doesn't soften. And I think what you see people doing is looking ahead at a time of very high uncertainty and writing down what they think the most likely case is. No one holds these rate paths with a great deal of conviction, and everyone would agree that they're all going to be data dependent, and that you can make a case for any of the rate paths, I think, that you see in the SEP. And we do this once a quarter. It's a hard thing to do particularly at this time, but it does reflect. If you see somebody writing down a rate path that involves cuts, that's them saying, yes, I think we will get to a place, more likely than not, where cuts will be appropriate. And it could be a joint probability of a number of possible outcomes. Again, remember how much uncertainty we face, though.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I wonder if you could describe for us some of those scenarios. How do you get to a place? I'm noticing that the uncertainty levels in your forecast are very high. How do you get to a place where you have the confidence in the outlook for, say, inflation and or growth or the unemployment rate? How many months does it take, and what do you want to see in the data to get to that level of confidence to actually reduce rates off the restrictive level?
So it's very, very hard to say when that will happen. We know that the time will come. It could come quickly. It could not come quickly. As long as the economy is solid, though, as long as we're seeing the kind of labor market that we have and reasonably decent growth and inflation moving down, we feel like the right thing to do is to be where we are, where our policy stance is, and just learn more. And in particular, we feel like we're going to learn a great deal more over the summer on tariffs. We hadn't expected them to show up much by now, and they haven't. And we will see whether, to the extent to which they do over coming months. And I think that's going to inform our thinking, for one thing. In addition, we'll see how the labor market progresses. So at some point, it will become clear. I can't tell you exactly when that will be. And meanwhile, we'll be watching the labor market very carefully for signs of weakness and strength, and tariffs for signs of what's going to happen there. And of course, there are many developments ahead. Even in the near term, developments are expected on tariffs. So I think we don't yet know with any confidence where they will settle out. We have an estimate, and I think all estimates are now pretty close together, but it's highly uncertain.
When you say estimate of the impact of tariffs on the core PCE, is that what it is? And could you share that?
What you start with is what's the effective tariff rate overall, and people are managing to that. But the pass-through of tariffs to consumer price inflation is a whole process that's very uncertain. As you know, there are many parties in that chain. There's the manufacturer, the exporter, the importer, the retailer, and the consumer. And each one of those is going to be trying not to be the one to pay for the tariff, but together they will all pay for it together, or maybe one party will pay it all. But that process is very hard to predict, and we haven't been through a situation like this, and I think we have to be humble about our ability to forecast it. So that's why we need to see some actual data to make better decisions. We'd like to get some more data, and again, in the meantime, we can do that because the economy remains in solid condition.
Nick Tamarosa of the Wall Street Journal. Chair Powell, I guess I'm wondering if you could explain a little bit more the divergence we see in the dot plot, particularly around the 2025 rate projections. I realize this is, you have one group of officials that are putting down no cuts, another that are putting down more than one. And again, recognizing that could be difficult to summarize, but is it a matter of people having a different outlook, or a different reaction function, a different commitment to defending against another inflation mistake? How did that play out over the last 2 days?
So you're right. This is often the case. We have a pretty healthy diversity of views on the committee. We did have strong support for today's decision. Secondly, people can look at the same data and they can evaluate the risks differently, as you know. And that includes, the risk of higher inflation, the risk that it'll be more persistent, the risk that the labor market will weaken. People are going to have different assessments of that risk. So that you put that in there too. So those are the two ways that the two things I think that drive these things. Remember though, as I mentioned earlier, with uncertainty as elevated as it is, no one holds these rate paths with a lot of conviction. So that's really where it is. It's a function of those things. And I think as the data come in, you should see those differences diminish.
If I could follow up, you've said the policy is in a good place and that it's modestly restrictive. Given all the uncertainty you just talked about, tariff levels, uncertainty around the pass-through, is it price increases versus margin compression, some of the softness that Chris talked about in labor and housing, why wouldn't it be better to have rates at a more neutral setting as the economy heads into this period of very high uncertainty?
So if you just look backward at the data, that's what you would say, but that's not, we have to be forward looking. And the thing that every forecaster, every outside forecaster and the Fed is saying is that we expect a meaningful amount of inflation to arrive in coming months. And we have to take that into account. So I think a backward looking look would lead you to a neutral stance, but we can't. We have to look at that, and because the economy is still solid, we can take the time to actually see what's going to happen. There's a range of possibilities on how large the inflation effects and the other effects are going to be. So we'll make smarter and better decisions if we just wait a couple of months or however long it takes to get a sense of really what is going to be the pass through of inflation and what's going to be the effects on spending and on hiring and all those things.
Michael McKee from Bloomberg Radio and Television. Your friend down at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue continues to lob insults in your direction. And I'm wondering, given now that the Supreme Court has maybe carved out the Fed from some of the legal implications of that, whether this is just noise that the markets and everybody should ignore until your term is up, or whether you worry that it could lead to more pressure on confidence on Wall Street, on consumers about the outlook for the economy.
Look, from my standpoint, it's not complicated. What everyone on the FOMC wants is a good, solid American economy with strong labor market and price stability. That's what we want. We think our policy is well positioned right now to deliver that and to be able to respond in a timely way as the data lead us around. The economy's been resilient, and part of that is our stance. And again, we think we're in a good place on that to respond to significant economic developments. That's what matters. That is what matters to us. Pretty much that's all that matters to us.
I need to ask, assuming you are not reappointed, would you stay on as governor when your term as chair ends?
I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about this.
Andrew.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I guess with workplace raids increasing, picking up significantly, what kind of effect would that have on the labor market
Sorry,
in the short
with
term?
what picking up?
Workplace raids.
So you're asking immigration?
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't want to speculate. One way to get at that from an economic standpoint, we of course don't comment on immigration policy. It's not ours to make or comment on. But what you see is an unemployment rate that has been really solid and at a low level, not really increasing. It's been in a good range and well within the range of mainstream estimates of maximum employment. And that means, like, part of that is that labor demand and labor supply are kind of moving down at the same rate. Labor demand is softening. You see that in job creation, but it's still kind of at a healthy level. And labor supply is diminishing because the immigration numbers that we see are much lower than they were. So those two factors, supply. Stable place.
Okay, thanks. The other thing I wanted to follow up on is if you could elaborate on the potential changes to the SEP that you suggested were part of the framework review, I think.
So the framework review really has two tracks, right? The first track is our policy framework that is reflected in the consensus statement. And we've said that we would finish that and announce it by the end of the summer. So we're well along in that process. We've had the meetings that we need to have, and we're now going to be going into, into discussions about, specific changes to language. So that's the framework part of it. The second part of it is our communications tools and practices. And that part comes next. Okay, that's what we're going to do in the meetings this fall. Actually, what we did at this meeting, though, is we sort of prepared the ground for that. We had a meeting where we talked at a high level about a number of ideas. The SEP is part of it. Many other ideas. It's sort of, how do we think our communications can be improved? There are a number of ideas. People offered a really, it was a great conversation, number of ideas, but we're going to look at those with staff briefing and a lot of thought in the fall. And I would say when it comes to changing communications, I would only support things really that only implement things that have very broad support. And also you want to be really careful because I think our communications are pretty well received. They're not broken. So more is not necessarily better, but better is better. So we're going to be looking at ways to do things that will improve the clarity of what we do for the benefit of the public.
Thanks, Chair Powell. Kelly O'Grady, CBS News. You're famously known as the guy that makes decision based on data instead of speculation. You've said today the inflation data is in a good place. We don't know how tariffs are going to impact prices going forward. That's uncertain. But I've got to go back to the last time that you cut rates in December, and there was still the what if of tariffs. So what made you feel comfortable cutting then when inflation was higher than where it is today and you didn't cut today?
Well, the forecast for inflation in December was 2.5%. Core PCE for 2025, the forecast was 2.5%, which was a good inflation forecast. I think what we've learned is that, and this was long before we had any idea of what the actual policies would be. We've learned that tariffs are going to be substantially larger than forecasters generally thought. And, we don't, our forecasts are generally not particularly different from those of other, well-resourced forecasting operations. So what we learned, and particularly in April, was that very substantially larger tariffs were coming and that would mean higher inflation. That's what happened. And so you saw 2.5% forecast in December, you saw 2.8% in March, and you see 3.1% now. So it's 0.6 higher inflation for 2025. And that's a big part of the change. And that's due to the effects of of the tariffs that are, we don't know where they're going to land, but it's pretty apparent they're going to land higher than outside forecasters were really guessing at the end of last year.
My follow-up to that, I think consumers, right, we're looking for relief on rates when it comes to mortgages, car loans, small businesses want to take out more manageable loans. When you look at the cumulative inflation over the past 5 years, prices have risen over 20%. It's been a rough road. So what is the tipping point then for the wait and see approach in terms of how much it's going to help versus when it hurts the American consumer?
Well, I mean, we're trying to restore price. Best thing we can do for the public that we serve is restore price stability. If we can, and we will, restore price stability, meaning 2% inflation on a durable, sustainable basis. That, and also maximum employment. If we restore those things, that's the best thing, and that is our goal. The best thing we can do for the American people, for households and businesses, that is the ultimate thing that we can deliver. And they can make their decisions without having to think about inflation all the time. So in the meantime, we have to keep rates high to get inflation all the way down. They're not very high, let's be honest. I would say policy is modestly or moderately, probably modestly now restrictive. If you look at the economy, it's not performing as though it were performing under very strict monetary policy, very restrictive monetary policy. So I would say probably modestly restrictive. And so what it will take is confidence that inflation is coming down. Now, I would say without tariffs, that confidence would be building, because if you see what's happening with non-housing services and housing services, which are the other two big pieces other than goods, those are coming down really nicely now. So I think we have to learn a little more about tariffs. I don't know what the right way for us to react will be. I think it's hard to know with any confidence how we should react until we see really the size of the effects, and then we can start to make a better judgment. So that's what we're doing, and I think we can take the time to do that because unemployment is 4.2%. Wages are moving up. Real wages are moving up at a healthy clip now. And inflation is 2.3% headline inflation over a 12-month basis. So it's a good economy and a solid economy with decent growth.
Thank you, Chair Powell. So you're saying that uncertainty has come down, the economy is moving at a solid pace, inflation has come down over the past 3 months, and this is all moving in the right direction. So are you indicating here that Americans should expect some sort of economic pain in the second half of the year?
I'm not saying that at all. From our standpoint, what I can say is that the U.S. economy is in solid shape. Inflation has come down. The unemployment rate remains at 4.2%. As I mentioned, real wages are moving up. It's a good job creation is at a healthy level. Unemployment, again, as I said, low. Labor force participation in a good place. So, and what we're waiting for to reduce rates is to understand what will happen with really the tariff inflation. And there's a lot of uncertainty about that. Every forecaster you can name who is a professional, forecaster with adequate resources and forecasts for a living is forecasting a pretty significant. Everyone that I know is forecasting a meaningful increase in inflation in coming months from tariffs, because someone has to pay for the tariffs, and it will be someone in that chain that I mentioned between the manufacturer, the exporter, the importer, the retailer, ultimately somebody putting it into a good of some kind, or just the consumer buying it. And all through that chain, people will be trying not to be the ones who pick up the cost, but ultimately the cost of the tariff has to be paid, and some of it will fall on the end consumer. We know that because that's what businesses say. That's what the data say from past. So we know that's coming, and we just want to see a little bit of that before we make judgments prematurely.
Follow up on that. So you spent years though talking about how you're data dependent, and be a little more direct on this. Now you're making decisions looking forward. Doesn't the data you're seeing today indicate there should be a rate cut?
No, I mean, your monetary policy has to be forward-looking. That is elementary. You've got to be looking at, I always talk about the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. But we say that over and over and over again, right? So it's always forward-looking. If at the very beginning of the pandemic, we cut rates to zero immediately. Nothing had happened. We just knew that it was going to be really bad, right? So we took very aggressive forward-looking because we knew things were going to be unusually difficult. So of course, this is something we sort of know is coming. We just don't know the size of it. And again, the economy seems to be in solid shape. So the labor market's not crying out for a rate cut. Businesses, were in a bit of shock after April 2, but you see business sentiment, you talk to business people now, there's a very different feeling now that people are working their way through this and they understand how they're going to go. And it feels much more positive and constructive than it did 3 months ago, let's say. So again, we think that our current stance of monetary policy is in a good place.
Thank you. Amara Mokwe with Bloomberg. Chair Powell, in February, you told Congress that the Fed is, quote, overworked, maybe not overstaffed. Then in a memo to staff in May announcing a deferred resignation program at the Fed, you said you wanted to ensure that the Fed was, quote, right-sized. Those two statements appear to be at odds with one another. Could you explain what changed in the roughly 3 months between those statements that made you decide that staff levels at the Fed should decline?
I don't see them at all as intention, so I was asked, is the Fed overstaffed? And I said, no, and I sort of said as a pun, overworked, but not overstaffed. People do work extremely hard at the Fed, and I know they work hard at Bloomberg too. So, but we work hard. But I would say this, so we are careful stewards of public resources, and sometimes you need to show that. So there have been several times in our history, modern history, where the Fed has said, you know what, we're going to do a buyout. We're going to show the public, we're going to demonstrate that we are good stewards of public resources. So we thought, and I thought that this is a time when we can, we grow at about, our headcount has grown at about 1% a year. So over the course of a couple of years, we're doing a careful scrub of the board and all the reserve banks, and we're going to find 10% of employees who can do something else, where we can streamline our operations, and we think we can get there in a couple of years. We think we can do that, and we think this is without taking risk to carrying out our critical missions. So this is something you do very carefully, thoughtfully, and you do it again respecting that we have critical missions to carry out. I've had a lot of experience in my prior careers, with headcount reductions and things like that, and this is how you do it professionally. You do it carefully, thoughtfully, with a lot of planning, and you do it over a period of time. And I think the Fed will be fine. I think no one will notice any decline in our ability to carry out our missions. And I think it's just us wanting to demonstrate to the public that we are actually good stewards of their resources. We're effectively wiping out 10 years of headcount growth with this. So, I mean, we wanted to show that, that we're good stewards.
How is progress on reducing headcount going so far? Are you on track to meet the goal?
We're just at the very beginning. As you know, we're doing a buyout program. We're gonna hit that goal. I think many organizations find that they can do this. You don't want to do it every year or anything, but you can do it at intervals, and you wind up not interfering with your ability to perform your jobs.
Chair Powell.
And so we actually, really didn't talk about the bill or the contents of it. It's still evolving. When it gets closer, remember also we have a very, very large economy, and that the effects will be at the margin. I expect that they may already be in, but they will be in by the next meeting. We'll make an estimate, but it's not a major thing. It's nothing that we discuss. It may have been mentioned a couple of times, but as something that's coming in. But I think the outcome is, we don't know the outcome yet there, so hard to be real specific.
Neil. Thanks, Chair Powell. Neil Irwin with Axios.
There have been some cutbacks in economic statistics collection in the last few weeks, worries that long-running problems around funding and response rates may be getting worse. How much is this concern on your radar? How much confidence do you have that the gauges you're watching to assess the economy are reliable right now?
You know, two things. One, the data we get right now, we can do our jobs. I'm not concerned that we can't do our jobs. That's not the point. The point really is that we are starting to see, layoffs and important gatherers of data are saying that they're having to cut back on the size of their surveys. That's going to lead to more volatility in the surveys. I think we should take a step back and, from our standpoint, and I think the standpoint of businesses and governments and everyone, having really good data on the state of the economy at any given time is a huge public good. It helps, it not just doesn't help the Fed, it helps the government, it helps Congress, it helps the executive branch. More importantly, really, it helps businesses. They need to know what's going on in the economy. The United States has been a leader for many, many years in this whole project of measuring and understanding what's happening in our very large and dynamic economy. And I hate to see us cutting back on that, because it is a real benefit to the general public that people in all kinds of jobs have the best possible understanding of what's happening in the economy and hence what's likely to happen. It's very hard to measure what's going on in the U.S. economy. If you read, there was a book called, it's really remarkable how many things you need to understand to estimate U.S. GDP. Very, very difficult. And it's so important that we get it right. I just would say it's not a place to I would want to keep investing in that, for the good of the general public.
Victoria.
Hi, Victoria Guida with Politico. So you're conducting this monetary policy strategy framework review, but next year we're supposed to have a new Fed chair. And I'm wondering if that affects at all the way that you're approaching this. How do you ensure that this framework will actually be durable?
The framework document goes back to 2012, and it's the committee's document. It's not like we're going to invent a brand new way to do things. It's been an evolving document, so it shouldn't depend on who the chair is at all. It should depend on what's happening in the economy and what the committee wants to do. So, yeah, it isn't really tied to any particular chair. And we used to renew it every year. Now we do it every 5 years. So, but I don't think I've never heard anyone raise this issue that, a new chair might want to come in and go in a completely different direction. I really don't think that's right. But, that's not going to be up to me to decide.
Is that affecting at all who you're consulting with?
Not at all. Not in any way.
Thank you. Chair Powell, Matt Egan from CNN. Relatively low gas prices this year have helped drive down inflation in recent reports, but that trend is starting to reverse given the crisis in the Middle East. How are you thinking about how the Israel-Iran conflict will impact the economy, especially inflation? And what lessons were learned during the 2022 period when another conflict, the Russia-Ukraine war, sent oil and gas prices skyrocketing?
So, of course, we're watching, like everybody else is, what's going on. I really don't have any comment on that. Possible that we'll see higher energy prices. What's tended to happen is when there's turmoil in the Middle East, you may see a spike in energy prices, but tends to come down. Those things don't generally tend to have lasting effects on inflation, although, of course, in the 1970s, they famously did, because you had a series of very, very large shocks. But we haven't seen anything like that now. The U.S. economy is far less dependent on foreign oil than it was back in the 1970s. So, but there.
A quick follow-up. I've just got to ask you about artificial intelligence. Some technology executives have recently been warning that AI could wipe out a large chunk of entry-level jobs and significantly increase the unemployment rate. I'm wondering how concerned you are, if at all, about the threat that AI poses to employment.
So this is the question. Question really is, will AI be more augmenting labor or replacing labor? And we all see those announcements, including one today. I wouldn't, overread a couple of data points, because AI should be creating jobs at the same time. It may be replacing, maybe doing both. Anyone who's done any work with AI will have been a little bit stunned at how capable it is, and it's just a different thing. So I think this is something that certainly has transformational potential, and probably we're in the very early stages of it. They say what you're seeing now compared to what you'll see in 2 years is going to be very different and even more effective. So I think it's really hard to know. Of course, there are optimists who feel like it's going to make everybody much more productive, and there are those who think it's going to replace an awful lot of jobs right across the income spectrum. White collar, blue collar, and everything. So I just don't know. We don't have a house view on that, but this is going to be a very important question for some time.
Great.
Thank you. Greg Rapp from MarketWatch. I was wondering if you could step back a little bit, Chair Powell. There's a spate of articles and a lot of op-eds now in the newspapers saying that the U.S. economy and the global economy is going through this profound change, akin to the end of the Bretton Woods era in the 1970s. And don't you owe the American people some sort of explanation for what we're going through? I mean, I noticed earlier this month when you talked about Bretton Woods a little bit, and you said that Bretton Woods, the Fed staff had to change how the dollar, movements for the dollar was impacting the economy. Are we going through something like that now? That, are you having to change how you do monetary policy? Is it that fundamental a change underway? Thanks.
It's certainly a time of real change, from a geopolitical standpoint, from a trade standpoint, from an immigration standpoint. You see this not just here, but everywhere. So there's quite a lot going on. It doesn't change the way we do monetary policy in the near term. But it doesn't change our objectives or what we need to do. And, these things are not really our issues. They're really issues for elected governments. All of those issues are really for elected governments. But there's no question it's a time of real change, and very hard to see where that goes. Will it be? There have been many things written about how it's going to be a more inflationary time. That's possible. It's not guaranteed. AI could cut in the very other direction. AI could make people much more productive and push in the other direction. I don't know though. So, but you're right. But honestly, our focus is a much more practical one, and that is, how do we keep inflation low and employment high in the near term? That's really what we're about.
Mark.
Hello, Chairman Powell. Mark Hamrick with Bankrate. What is the view about the growing amount of slack in the job market, including the softening in payrolls, the forecast of a modest rise in the unemployment rate, and the ability of workers to demand wage hikes or not in this environment where you have inflation surging?
You don't really see unemployment going up. You don't see increased slack, really. At the margin, remember, you're at 4.2% unemployment. That was for many years. That was a extremely low level. It happens to have come up off of an even lower level as we came out of the pandemic. We were as low as 3.4%, but 4.2% is probably at the low end of estimates of the longer run, sustainable level of natural rate of unemployment. So I guess I wouldn't agree with that. And also, in terms of wages, real wages after inflation have been moving up sort of more than was consistent with 2% inflation. They're still moving up at a healthy clip, and I think much more consistent with 2% inflation, given a reasonable assessment of trend productivity. So it's a pretty good labor market. You're right that the level of job creation has come down, but so has the supply of workers, the change in the supply, the new supply. So you've seen the unemployment rate remain pretty stable at 4.2. It's been as high as 4.3, but those are good numbers. So it's a pretty good labor market. There's a more concerning thing is there are not a lot of layoffs, but there are not a lot of job creation. If you're out of work, it's hard to find a job, but very few people are being laid off at this point. So that's an equilibrium we watch very, very carefully, because if there were to be significant layoffs and the job finding rate were to remain this low, you would have an increase in unemployment fairly quickly. But that hasn't happened. It really hasn't happened. The U.S. economy has defied all kinds of forecasts for it to weaken really over the last 3 years. And it's been remarkable to see just again and again when people think it's going to weaken. Now, eventually it will, but we don't see signs of that now.
Go to Jean for the last question. Hi, Chair Powell. Jean Young with M&I Market News. There's been a lot of talk about cuts. I wanted to ask you, why do you think there are no forecasts for rates to rise or even to stay where they are next year, given that
Booking a flight? Download Kayak's app and set a price alert. We'll notify you as soon as the price changes. In the meantime,
there's some skepticism over whether those price hikes will be a one-time event?
So there are a number of people on the committee who wrote down no cuts this year, but some cuts next year. So I think, people are writing down their most likely path, right? They're not saying there's zero possibility of other things. Really, it's think of it as the least unlikely path in a situation like this where uncertainty is very high. I think, again, people write down their rate paths, and they do not have like a really high conviction that this is exactly what's going to happen over the next 2 years. No one feels that way about their rate path. They feel like, what am I going to write down? I mean, what would you write down? It's not easy to do that with confidence. So I would just say it that way. We don't rule things in or out. Certainly a hike is not the base case at all. It's not something people are writing down. But in the meantime, we do the best we can with these forecasts, and I think they're representative of the different forecasts and different reaction functions that people on the committee have. So thank you very much. Thanks. Colleagues and I remain squarely focused on achieving our dual.
All right. Okay. Yeah, done. أحوات, thank you. So ንእሽተይ ባክግራውንድ ክንምለስ ኢና ኣሕዋት። እቲ ሞስሊ እንታይ እዮም ዝርእዩ ዘለዉ ንዝብል ተን ነጥብታት ኣይኖ እዚ ቁርብ ክብድ ዝበለ ማተርያል ክሳብ ዝኾነ ናብዚኣ ክንምለስ ንእሽተይ። ንኣብነት ኣብ ዝመፅእ ፍራይደይ ዝመፅእ ዓርቢ ጁን 27 እቲ ቀንዲ ናይ ፒሲኢ ዝብል ኣለና። ፒሲኢ ኢንዴክስ እዚ ፒሲኢ ማለት ናይ ንሕና ከድና ንገዝኦ ንሽሙት ኣቑሑ ፕላስ ኣክንዳና ኮይኖም ዝገዝኡልና ከም ኢንሹራንስ ማለት እዩ። ናይ ዝቕባበ ወይ ከዓ ኢንፍሌሽን መዐቀኒ ማለት እዩ። ፐርሰናል ኮንሰምፕሽን ኤክስፐንዲቸር ተባሂሉ ከዓ ይፅዋዕ። ሕጂ ነዚ እቲ ቀንዲ መዐቀኒና እዚ ኣሕዋት ዝትሪእዎ ዘለኹም በዚ እዩ። ኦኬ ንኣብነት ኣብ ዝሓለፈ ዝረኸብናዮ እዚ ናይ ወርሒ 4 ፒሲኢ ዝረኸብናዮ እንተኸድና ፒሲኢ ናይ ሜይ ናይ ወርሒ 4 ዝረኸብናዮ 0.1% ረኺብና ኣብ ሜይ ኣብ ወርሒ 4 ማለት እዩ። እንደገና ፒሲኢ የር ኦቨር የር ከዓ ራእይዋ 2.1 ረኺብና። እንደገና ኮር ፒሲኢ ናይ ወርሒ 4 ከዓ 0.1 ረኺብና ናይ ሓንቲ ወርሒ ማለት እዩ። ኮር ከዓ ብዘይካ ምግብን ኢነርጂን ማለት እዩ። ሆልድ ግበሩ ንእሽተይ።
Left front door.
What about that?
Left front door.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I just had to come here and get some water. Thank you. Got a bath?
Left front door.
No. I'm ready for it, though. Yeah, that's what we like that. Huh. Have a good night, y'all.
Left front door.
Her walking by herself. She thought they got $1.85 here. That nigga ran over here.
Left front door.
Yep.
The other one's not doing it. Thanks, man.
Alright. Okay. ይቅርታ ኦኬ ሕጂ እዚ ነጥብ እዚአና ክንርኢ ኣሕዋት ተመሊሰ ኣለኹ ቅረታ PCE 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 and PCE እዚ PCE እዚኢና ክንከይድ ማለት እዩ alright ነዚአን ረኣይወን ናይ ወርሒ 4 0.2 ናይ ወርሒ 0.1 ወሰኽ ገይሩ ኣብ year over year ካብ 2.1 ወሰኽ ገይሩ ኣብ ኮር ከዓ PCE ከዓ 0.1 ኣብ ኮር PCE year over year ከዓ 2.5 ነዚኣ ዝዓቀነ ንሪኣ ከለና So, እዚአን ተንቀንዲ alright ንሰነን ተመሰረት alright ነዘን እዚአን ዝረኸብናየን ሎማዓንቲ ሪፖርት ናብኣይና ክንመፅእ ኣሕዋት ነዚአንን እቲ ጀሮም ፓወል ዝዛረብ ዘሎ ንኣብነት ረኣይዋ እታ ኮር PCE ንሕና ኣብ መወዳእታ ዝዓመት ንፅበዮ ዘለና ብ3.1 ክውዲ እዩ ኮር PCE ሕጂ ኣብ ማርኬትና ናይ ወርሒ 4 ረኺብናዮ ዘለና ብ2.5 እዩ So, እዚኣሲ 2.5 ዘላ ናብ 3.1 ክትውስኽ ያብለና ኣሎ ብሰንኪ ታሪፍ ወይ ከዓ ቀረጽ ሕዝዋ እዚኣ እንደገና PCE ሬጉላር ካብ 2.7 ሶሪ ካብ 3 ናብ 3.0 ክትውስኽ ያብለና ለዚኣ ኸ እዚኣ ኸ እንታይ ነይራ ሕዝዋ ኣሕዋት እሳኻ እዛ 2.1 ዘላ ሕጂ ሪፖርት እያ ኦኬ እዚኣ ተሽግርና alright እዚኣ 3.1 ንፅበልና መወዳእታ ዝዓመት እዚኣ ኸ 3.0 ንፅበልና መወዳእታ ዓመት ብሰንኪ ኢንፍሌሽን ነዚ ክመጽ እዩ ስለዚ አንኤምፕሎይመንት ሬት ከዓ እንታይ ዝብለና ዘሎ ሕጅን ዘለና 4.2 ኣለና ናብ 4.5 ሃይ ክኸይድ ይኽእል ይብለና ኣሎ GDP ኔጋቲቭ ዘለና GDP ፖዚቲቭ ክኸውን ናብ 1.4 እዚአን እዩ ዝዛረብ ውዒሉ ማለት እዩ ሶ ብሰንኪ ትሪኦ ዘለኹም ኢንፍሌሽን መወሰኽ ብምግባሩ ንሕና ወለድና ሬትካት ኦልሞስት ካብ 4.3 ዘሎ 4.33 ዘሎ ናብ 3.9 ጥራሕ ኢና ክንቆርጽ ንኽእል ክልተ ግዜ ጥራሕ ኢና ወለድ ክንቆርጽ ንኽእል ኢሉና ሶ እዚኣ ተቐንዲ መበገሲት ምዃና ክትሕዝዋ ምስ ኣማሽን ገብራ ዘላ yes I am sorry በየነ ሶ እዚአን እንድሕር ኮይነን እዚ ደኣ እንታይ እዩ እቲ ነዚ ኩሉ ክቕይሮ ዝኽእል ማለት ታሪፍ እዩ ሕጂ ናብቲ ሳመሪ ክመፅእ ኣሕዋት ሳመሪ ኩሉ ሻዕ I will share to ሳመሪ ፅቡቅ ገይሮም ዝገብርዋ ኣብዚኣ ናይ ኤክስ ስለ ዘላ ኣሕዋት ነዚኣ ክትመሃርዋ እውን በዚ ኣጋጣሚ ደስ ይብለኒ ሞስትሊ ኤክስ ትራምፕ እንታይ ክብል እዩ ብዛዕባ እዚኣ ኣይተዛረበን ዘሎ ኦኬ ሳመሪ ኣይኖት ኣይሓዝኩን ኣብዚኣ ዘላ ክወስድ እየ ኦኬ ብሓንሳብ ነዚኣ ክንሪኣ ኢና ማለት ኣሕዋት Okay, Trump Trump oval office ዝኾነ ዝርርብ ነይርዎ ማለት ስለኒ ካብ ታሕቲ ክንመጽኢና Oh wow, Trump ብዙሕ ተዛሪብሎ ናይ ጀሮም ፓወል ቀድና ክንዛረብ ኣሕዋት ፅንሕኒ So, yeah, ናይ ፓወል ክንጅምራ ኢና ድሕሩ ትራምፕ እውን ዝኾነ ኢንተርቪው ገይሩሎ ናይ ፓወልን ክንመፅና sorry ናብ ትራምፕ እውን ክንመፅ ኢና ኣሕዋት Okay, Paul, I like this summary. I think so have the Jamir Malti. So እንታይ ኢልና ካብዚ ክንጅምራ ኢና power its sentiment sort kind of reflection trade policy concern ባሕፂሩ ብሰንኪ ኢንፍሌሽን እቲ ዘሎ ኩነታት እቲ ናይ እምነት ናይ ቁጠባ ተቀያይሩ ከም ዘሎ ዝብል ገልጽ ዘሎ so እንታይ እዩ እቲ sentiment ወይ ከዓ እቲ ናይ ታሪፍ ነቲ spending ነቲ ናይ ምሕንሻሽ ወይ ከዓ spending ናይ ተዓዲ ክጸልዎ ክእል ኢልና ኣሎ labor market remained solid እቲ ናይ unemployment rate ዝብልናይ ወይ ከዓ ሰራሕተኛ ምቁጻር ጽቡቕ ኣሎ solid ኣሎ ይብል ኣሎ so unemployment steady ይብለና ዘሎ ግን at least ናብ 4.5 ቅጽል ከም ዝኽእል ተቀይስልና unemployment still maximum ማለት ይወስኻሎ opening ተሪኽሞ 7.1 ሚሊዮን ነበረ ናብ 7.4 ሚሊዮን ኾን ወስኽ ገይሩሎ so estimate PCE rose ናብ 2.3 core 2.6 in May ኣብ ወርሒ ሪፖርት ክንረኽቦ ንኽእል ኣብ ወርሒ 5 ማለት ጁን 27 ዝመጽእ ዓርቢ ናይቱ year over year PC ና 2.3 ዛ 2.1 ዘላ እታ ኮርካ 2.6 ኮና ዳ 2.2 ዘላ ክውስኽ ይብለና ኣሎ ሪፖርት ንኽቦሲ ናይ ማይ ክውስኽ ብሰንኪ ኢንፍሌሽን ይብለና then near term inflation moved recently well at least the hang ክኸውን okay have moved up ባሕፂሩ ኢንፍሌሽን ብሰንኪ ታሪፍ ክውስኽ ከም ዝኽእል that's all ኢንፍሌሽን ብሰንኪ ታሪፍ ክውስኽ ብሰንኪ ታሪፍ ክውስኽ ስለ ዝኾነ ጥራሕ ኢና ንሕና ወለድ ወይ ከዓ እቲ ሃይ ጌርና ያዘልና ትናምበር ተደሪአኩም ነበርኩም ማለት እዩ ታሪፍ ወላ ሓንቲ ካሊ ይብላን ታሪፍ effect inflation could be more persistent like ንነውሕ ክኸይድ ይኽእል እዩ እዚኣ ቁርባስ ጋኢትያ ታሪፍ ንሓድሽ ንግዚያዊ እንዳተጸበናይ ንነውሕን ክኸይድ ይኽእል እዩ obligation is keep one time price increase from becoming ongoing inflation problem so ሓንሳብ ገለ ኮምፒውተር መሳሊ ካልእ ንብረታት still ዋጋታት ከም ዝወሰኹሉ ይሓቢሩ that's why ዋጋታት ወሲኹ ስለ ዘሎ ናይ ሪፖርት ንረኽባ ዝመጽእ ዓርቢ ጁን 27 ናይ ሜይ ሪፖርት ናይ ጁን ሪፖርት ናይ ጁላይ ሪፖርት ናይ ዚን ሰለስተን ኣዝየን ኣገደስትን ስለዚ ሽዑ ካብ ወርሒ 10 ወርሒ 10 11 ሬት ክቆርጹ ይኽእሉ ማለት እዩ okay discussion okay Paul is like we had 3 months of favorable inflation reading which is welcome news okay ዝሓለፈ 3 ወርሒ ጽቡቕ ዝኾነ reading inflation እንዳረኺብና ሕጂ ግን ብሰንኪ ታሪፍ ክቕየር እዩ ምክንያቱ ታሪፍ ኣፕሪል 2 on ስለ ዝኾነ ማለት እዩ so inflation is reading parity due to the colon okay yeah ናይ the team inflation reading ቁርብ ዳውን ኮይኑሎ ናይ housing ቁርብ ዳውን ኮይኑሎ ምክንያቱ ሓደ housing ስለምንታይ እኩል ኮይኑ ዘሎ ንሕዋት ወለድ ወሲኹሎ interest rate ናይ ገዛ ድሕሪ ክትገዝእኮንካ ሃይ ኮይኑሎ ብሰንኩ ሃይ ምዃንካ ናይ housing ምሻጥ ምልዋጥ ቁርብ lower ኮይኑሎ እቲ ንባዕሉ ናይ ኢንፍሌሽን እውን ናይ ገዛ ምውሳኽ ዝነበረ ብሰንኪ ናይ ወለድ ሃይ ገዛ ከም ትዝድለ ብዙሕ ገዛውቲ ይሽየጥ የለን እንደገና በቲ ሓደ ወገንካ ብዙሕ ገዛውቲ ይህነጽ የለን ብሰንኪ ሰራሕተኛታት ወይ ከዓ ትራምፕ ኢሚግሬሽን ምስጓግ ማለት እዩ ስለዚ ክልቲ ይዝጋጨ ማለት እዩ So inflation sorry ዝቕባበ ግዜ ክወስድ ናብ ኮንሱመር ክበጽሕ ናባና ናብ CPI ዳታ ንክበጽሕ ግዜ ከም ዝወስድ ዝገልጽ ዘሎ already ግን May report ንረኽቦ PCE ግዜ ክወስድ ኣይኮነን ናይ May high እንድሕር ኮይኑ inflation ካብ 2.1 ዘሎ ናብ 2.3 እንድሕር increase ገይሩ ኣይወሰደን ኣቲል inflation ዋለይ So yeah, some already tariff already effect ገይሩሎ ኣቲኹም ዘሎ ገሊጽልና ዘሎ the size amount of duration of tariffs are highly uncertain. Okay, yeah, but tariff kala ኣይኮነን ኣሕዋት tariff ሲ you know ንጹርነት ናይ ታሪፍ ሽግር ኣለና still ዲል ኣይተወደን ትራምፕ እዚኣ ሽግር ከናቶ ዘላ ክውዳእ ኣይከኣለን በቲ ከዓ ሕጂ ከዓ ናይ ሚድል ኢስት ኣርኪብና ኣሎ so inflation move up ክገብር ኢልና ኣሲም ክንገብር ኣይንኽእልና ግን projection ንህና ሾው ጌርና ዘለና እዚ መስል ብላሎ looking for policy projection is focused on near term is here to forecast long term. Okay, we adapted that time. Okay, حلف كلهم حوات. Okay, yeah, እቲ ኩነታት uncertainty peaked in April and has come down. Okay, it is never ab April ቅልውላው big ቅልውላው ነይሩ ናይ ብሰንኪ ሽዑ ስለ ዝኾነ ተወለድ ምውሳእ እቲ ናይ ታሪፍ ማለት እዩ ሕጂ ግን ካብቲ ዝነበረ ቅልውላው ቁሩብ ድሓን ኮይና ኣለና ነገራት ተረጋጊኡሎ ግን ነገራት ዳሊ ተረጋጊኡ እምበር ዋጋታት ኣቑሑና ክውስኺ ማለት እዩ ሰሰል بحثيرو أبناء inflation ينيرو. Okay, housing situation is in long run a problem. حواترا نايجازا مجزا معدك. يا هجو على كل داون تخونه نلونج ران نمتساعين شجر على النام. هنياتو inventory less ويكا بزح جزاوت تهانت أسلزي اللي السوق حدا عبي inflation يماليتيو. عتيرو. So housing شجر كم هلو خالي نلونج ران كم تزدله جزاوت تذكر كبخالي. Okay, am I live? Okay, yeah, I'm live. Yeah, okay. I just make sure, guys. Let's back that summary. Okay. All right. Oh wow. Did I miss up that? ይቅርታ ግበሩለይና ብድሕሪት ንእሽተይ መሊሰኩም መስለኒ yes So unemployment rate is remaining low. Okay. حدش ترخب كلي أنا حوات. يا كل التجزئة ريت كات كم زل مالت نيو نجر انتهى له Trump on Iran. I have not made any final decision. Okay, Trump. Yeah. Powell and Tyler, it is time to real change in geopolitics, trade, and immigration doesn't change how we do monetary policy. Okay, زين ثلاث نجار أبزناي geopolitics زلهم هم نفلتو ناي geopolitics specialist ناي Middle East أقعد إمزلوا ولا وانت حديثي إن السؤال شجر كفتري خالده يا of course شجر كفتري خالي كم ناي بقى زحلة في روسيا عندي أوكرانيا اللي قالي توي so زي لو تخمس على بتذكر trade كأن أي تعرف مالت immigration كسبات مسقاق زين ثلاثين شجر لنا إذا بحثيرو جرام بال إذا ثلاثة شجر كسب لنا نتي مونيتور خنقبر نحنا ويك أول لكم قرص ولا لكم قرص نحن سخدنا يا هنياتو يا نت مونيتور بوليسي كبيدو مالو بتذكر خبري خالي هل في سبيشال زنا جيوبوليتكس نا إيران and إسرائيل oil in حركات كينو oil high price كينو oil in حروسيقو كل نجارات كوسخ مالتي trade كا جنا ولا حنت توديله Fed Powell, I don't see increase slack labor market except at the margin. Okay, Trump when asked about that. All right, look, this rate hack, rate Musa كقاطع مخيل دي نزل بالحتة. No, nothing. Still up table كم زي ولا تصبق قليل وازيا. Yeah, I think so. أحوات باول كونفرنس إن سودي مالتي كم زحدش نجار يلن بتخكل نابتا نحرت مالسنا نابتا سنت رجع أصل تقاليج هذا لا نساء حدش ولا حنت يلن ماركت دحر عشرة دقيقة كعد سيو of course كله let me back شركة قبركم I know بزح كم زي عابي نجار change خمس زخل ولا حنت عمتن ምናልባት ዘይሰማዕኩን ተሓሊፍ ያ ኪው ብጣዕሚ ኣብ ከይዱ ኣብ ኤንድ ዳውን ኦፍ ኮርስ ቮላቲሊቲ በቃ ብጣዕሚ እዚ ከዓ ናይ ትራምፕ ኣብቲ ኦቫል ኦፊስ ከዓ ብዛዕባ ኢራን ከዓ ዛረብ ስለ ዝፀንሐ እዩ ኣብ ኤንድ ዳውን ኮይና ኣሎ ምንም ተስላ ኢዝ about 323.97 ኣብ ኤንድ ዳውን ፓላንተር ኢዝ ኣብ ኤንድ ዳውን በቃ ማርኬት ብጣዕሚ ቅልውላው ይፈጢሩ ዘሎ منم إذناي بحصر زبالة ناتيم بسنك جرام باول ماركت كوسا خايكل كأن سايكل الهاي كوين نيروجن بحروها ترامب كعمل سيخا نزخلو يس تعشم غير والله بزخونة إذا إزولة حبريتا I think so زقدفكو I مثلن I know نوح زبالة فيديو من البات تسامريجن أو أخلقت حزواي دلي نزي أعتقد تسامري إذا أنا تلكم ስለዚህ ኣብዚ መጽእ ሕጂ እንታይ መስል ንዝብል ሕቶ ሲኤምኢ ፌድ እንድሕር ከድና ኣሕዋት መዓስዮም ክመፁ ጁላይ ዕለት 30 ክመፅኦም ጁላይ 30 መፅኦም እንታይ ኦልሞስት ከም ዝሪእና ዘለና ዳርጋ 9% ወለድ ምቑራፅ ከም ዘየለ ሰፕተምበር እንድሕር ከድና ከዓ ዳርጋ 61.6% ወለድ ምቑራፅ ከም ዘየለ and then october ንህለኩም october is በቃ ኦክቶበር 46.2% ወለድ ምቑራፅ ኣሎ then December መወዳእታ ዝዓመት ካ yes almost 42.4 ናብ 3.75 to 400 ክወርድ ይኽእል ክልተ ግዜ ሬት ካት ጥራሕ ክህልወና ዝኽእል እዚአን ዘለዋና ካልእ ኣምስቲ ናይ بتخكل هجي حسكم ما تكون الدليل ذلو خانة إذن أزي بزح تغير يلون نتبين رأينا ناي جرام باول geopolitics كونتات إذن قالوا لا ناي بتعمي ناي إيران عند إسرائيل زيا نبي كتمر حنا دخل تقند والثاني زيا ترامب انت خجبر خل أبزن هجي ماركت عم تعوي ماركت تعاتيو صباحون هوليداي كسب زخونة ماركت هيكفتني maybe لومي انتاي يقبر نزبل حتى حدا عبي أجندة يويك عبي نتبيو زي أخت حزوا يدلي هنياتو انتاي خمر حنا زخل نبي يكبر خل تخجبر زخل you know متقعد قبر يا قبرن زي أبزي أنا خنودا نسا يتقن نتا ماركت عقر قد فترة الله زلام عليه Trump says that earlier that he has not yet made any decision. Okay, نسمع يا زي قرب.
Not to do it, and look, they should have made the deal. I had a great deal for them. They should have made that deal. 60 days we talked.
نتي ديل كجبرو خلهم هجز أبت أوفال أوفيسز تزاربي مالتي. تديل كجبر لهم.
About it, and in the end they decided not to do it, and now they wish they did it, and they want to meet, but it's it's a little late to meet, but they want to meet, and they want to come to the White House. They'll even come to the White House. So we'll see. I may do that, but it's a shame it wasn't. Could have been done the easy way. Good luck.
Well, هجين تاج زل ترامب كم تروى زلهم يا ديل لو هجي ديل كجبري يحسب زلوا ولا نبز كان وايت هاوس كان متسينا ونبلو لو بلالو so still too late إن دم يوم بزح حساب كم زمان تخمس خلنا نفلطه بزح عني اللو مالتيو so أقدمهم جبروني روم جن still هجون كن جبر نخلنا بزلا that's positive back up positive زخانة نيت. Yes, President Trump said that earlier that he has not yet made any decision about Iran, but that he will be attending a meeting in the Situation Room in roughly an hour. Oh, whoa, danger حوات. I am sorry. Look this حوات. درجة دحر ساعات. Look this. حوات إتا ماركت كده عد ساعة جد دحر ساعات يخون المسألة سدا أزولاي دحر ساعات يخون أبتناي Situation Room again Miss Security Council أخيبا ويكا meeting كم زلوا قلت الله. So زيادة هبة شعاع أخيبة statement اندحر هبنا بالتعني I don't think so هبنا danger كتكون تخلع. Other than that, Iranian should I have made the deal and that they now want to meet at the White House. All right, White House Iranian كرخبوي دليل لو هجي ديل كقبر له. جون قبلهم خلي جن إتا أخيبة تقبر هجي roughly within أبتي ناي situation room danger أخيبة تكون تخلعت. مال أخيبة جرم زغنا وسان وسيناميم أنا لو ما عندها أخيبة قبريم. Most probably this is we have to wait. كن رأي لنا عليهم. So some goes Omar and Navy at the widow as Sharon and Navy at the Canada blocks of their ships also out of their engine. Okay, Andy. Okay, look this. There are a lot of preparation and movement happening, and right now in the Middle East, in case the USA does decide to join the war against Iran, and then this kind of movement do something significantly increase the risk to soldiers and other service members. Accidents accounts for the way more deaths and okay. ብዙሕ ምንቅስቃስ ከም ዘሎ እዮም ዝሕብሩ ዘለዉ ናይ ምክንያቱ ሕጂ ዝገብረ ኣኼባ ኣዝያ ወሳኒት ክትከውን ትኽእል እያ ሕዋት I think so that's all. Look, the CNN has now confirmed that USA military aircraft which is landed earlier today in Israel was used to evacuate several embassy personnel and family members from the country aims that okay yeah ናብ ውሽጢ እስራኤል ኣትዮም ካብ ውሽጢ እስራኤል ኣትዮም ነቶም ናይ ኤምባሲ members and family members ኩሎም ከዓ evacuate ገብሮም ይውፅኦም ኣሎ ማለት እዩ satellite images are based on Earth on the US Air Forces most important base بعتر እዚኣ ክንፅበሕ ሕዋት እዚኣ እታ ቀንዲ እዚኣ ጀሮም ፓወል ሂድንድናትን ንህለኩም እታ ኢሜጅን እዚኣ እዛ facility for dom ትበሃል ዘላ so ካብ ዲያጎ ጋርሲ ዘሎ ኦኬ ሶሪ እዚ ናይ ዲያጎ ጋርሲ ኣብዚ እቲ ዘሎ እቲ ሚሊታሪ ይኹን እቲ ኣፅዋር ይኹን እቲ ቢቱ ይኹን እቲ ቦምበር ዘሎ ኣብዚ እዩ ካብዚ ከባቢ 6 ሰዓት ክወስደሉ ይኽእል ናብ ንእስራኤል ንኻብቲ ሃርብ ናብቲ ፎር ናብቲ ዘድሊ ማለት እዩ yeah my goodness what she's doing in TV okay so yeah ኣብዚ ክውዳእ መስለኒ እታ ሓዋዊሰልኩም ኾነ ኢሎም ማዓንቲ ግን ንሱኻ ክሳብ ዝኾነ ብኡ ኣማራፂ ይብልና እዚ ናይ ጀሮም ፓወል ድምፆ ምንም ግን the most important is ናይ Iran and Israel ንዓፈሎም ነገር oh my goodness Tesla is moving up guys what happened is there any news about Tesla somebody say something Tesla is moving I hope it's going to close Tesla is it's going well because Kiku is about down but Tesla is about moving about Palantir no Palantir is up and down what do we have in Tesla nothing news where you go Nikti ናይ Tesla ቀረብ ክንረኽባ ንኽእል report እውን Tesla robotaxi long promised by Elon Musk joined the crowded field. Oh, only one can scale profitable Tesla. All right, 2 hours ago, Mr. Musk said that driverless taxis could be gone for any passengers on Sunday in Austin, Texas. Here we go, Sunday. There we go. Good news for Tesla. New York Times, Ahmad. Sanbet. Is that Sanbet 22? Is it Sanbet 22? It's Rankleton Sanbet. Yeah, June 22. All right, this is why Tesla is up malay tibhatiru. Yeah, 4 days now. Robotax natilkum Tesla. That's why Tesla moved to Gabriela. Let me share. Is that Sunday 22? Somebody calendar. Migo. Oh, Robotaxi.
Oh my gosh, we found one. That one didn't have a driver. Oh my gosh, we found one. That one didn't have a driver.
All right, guys.
Oh my gosh, we found one.
That robotaxi notification by us. Somebody in there? We don't see any.
That one didn't have a driver.
Did you see anybody in here?
Oh.
Did you see any?
Oh my gosh, we found one.
Oh yes, somebody but the other side. But the other side allo. But the night drive side. They couldn't but the other side allo. That's why Tesla is moving up.
That one didn't have a driver.
2.22% increase here allo man. Anyway,
Oh my
big
gosh,
news.
we found one.
So let's focus on Iran and Israel أحوات كابعة رايحين هنقتل نخل زغنا حدش نقدر نحرق لنا إيران وإسرائيل دحاركم أتعاقمي yeah we'll see I don't think so إن جاي كنقو برازي ناي special ناي تسلا سنبت زمت زلوا مخنياتو إيران وإسرائيل نحرق لي تماركت قلت لكن يكرتا and thank you and نوح كل تسعة حيزكمي thank you زليكم أخاكم تكونوا تصفى قبر bye bye thank you guys thank you